They were on. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd at this time from the council, I'd like to ask for a motion, if I could, to come out of executive session.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I'd like a motion to seal the minutes of executive session, if I could.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. We're out of executive session. The regular town council meeting, 7 o'clock, 7:01, I think, right now. If we could ask a roll call, Mrs. Amatrano, please.
Glenn Shibley,
I'm present.
Greg LeBoissonniere,
He is absent.
Okay.
And, as far as I know, he's down in Florida visiting his father.
Kerry McGee,
Yeah.
Karen Carlson,
Here.
Deb Bacon,
Here.
Nicholas Gorham,
Here.
Ed Wazika.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Spearman, would you be so kind to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And while we're still standing, if we could just bow our head a moment, ask the Lord for guidance and blessings. We ask for your blessing for the young student that was shot and killed in Providence this past week, unintended victim at age 15. We also want to reflect back and ask for your blessings of the tragedy occurring 17 years ago tomorrow. All the thousands of individual firefighters, police officers, rescue workers, military individuals, officers at the Pentagon, and their families that continue living on 17 years from that tragedy. We ask this in your name. Amen. And if you could, Mr. Spearman, the emergency evacuation plan if needed. Thank you very much. Okay, President's comments, just a few tonight. Firstly, I'd like a reminder to everyone that Wednesday, September 12th, is Primary Day in Rhode Island. Normally it's on Tuesday, as you know, but it's a religious holiday, so our primary day is Wednesday, and you are all encouraged to get out and vote. The right that we still have, thanks to our service officers in this country and throughout the world. So please make use of that. There are 18 polling places I've notified or been notified of. 4 in District 1, 2 in District 3 in District 2, 3 in District 3, and 4 in District 4, and 4 in District 5. The one change from the normal polling places is in my district, District 4, and instead of voting for those that vote at the Coventry Senior Center on Wood Street, the location has been moved to the VFW on 29 South Main Street. So that is the only change out of the 18. So all 18 will be open, and hopefully we'll have good attendance. I know there's a lot of candidates that are depending on you showing up to vote. We'll leave it. We'll leave it. Excuse me. Oh yes. I'm sorry. Bring identification of some sorts. That's for sure. Whether it's a license or a senior citizen ID or a passport or a military ID. I think most people are aware of that, but it doesn't hurt to remind people. So please bring identification as well. Secondly, on Saturday, September 8th, we had an event, or I should say the Coventry Historical Society had an event at the Reed Schoolhouse facility. I did not attend, but it was a dedication to Lil's Way, the front walk out of red bricks that have been donated in memory of Lillian Thurston, who was instrumental in getting that Reed Schoolhouse repaired and brought up to historical value, and also on the historical list. So I also read where there's still bricks available if anyone wants to purchase one to help fund the upkeep of the facility that we're all so proud of here in Coventry. Lastly, on Saturday, September 8th, and Sunday, September 9th, at the General Nathaniel Green Homestead, there was a Civil War reenactment demonstration and lectures. I did attend that on one afternoon. The Dave Procaccini, the president of the Homestead Association, said it was very successful. All monies raised. We're going to the new barn building structure that is being constructed that will be used for upcoming events and concerts in the future. I think it's supposed to be finished by this coming spring. So a lot of good history and a lot of good happenings over this past weekend. So that's basically it. President's comments. Next, we have on the agenda the approval of the town council minutes for the August 27th meeting. So do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So approved.
And do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or comments regarding the minutes? It's again several pages, well noted. I guess more information is always better than not enough information, but we'll let it go with that. Does someone have a change or two?
I do have just a couple. I kind of got to the point where, oh boy, this was a long packet for minutes. Page 7, regular page 7 of 272.
Mm-hmm.
Second paragraph, there was a third line. The governor had a press release. It should be a press conference. I know these are little things. Just, did you see that? Okay.
Okay.
And I'm not, and in the middle, I'm not sure Sonatrol is spelled right, but maybe we can look into that. The next line, it says, we have areas like in the gym and some of our industrial settings at the high school where, and it's were, but it should be where, people can't hear. I think commingled might be spelled incorrectly on the 4 lines down from that.
This is all on page 7?
That's all on the same page, yeah, page 7.
Are we getting those notations, Mrs.
Yeah.
Amatron? Okay.
I thought there was another one, but I don't see it. So for me, that's it. That's it.
I have also on page 7 the spelling for Mrs. Patnode. It was just the U and the D got flipped on the first paragraph and also the first line of the second paragraph. I don't believe her name appears anywhere else, but correct me if I'm wrong. And then also on page, let's see, I guess that's it on the minutes. I'm sorry. That's it on the minutes. Anything else, Mrs. Bacon or Mr. McGee on that? Okay. Well, with those changes then and typo corrections, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and it's passed. Thank you. Thank you for doing such a detailed and good job, Mrs. Amatrano. Appreciate it. Next, we have council district updates, item 4 on agenda B. So, Mr. McGee, why don't I start with you?
Okay, I have nothing really to report. Everything's going pretty smooth in District 3 right now. I just want to remind everybody to exercise their right to vote and get out on Wednesday in our Rhode Island primary and vote for the best possible candidate. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bacon, District 5.
I have nothing this evening.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Carlson, District 1.
Of course, I always have something to say, don't I? Welcome, everybody. It's great to see, wow, this is like a big crowd tonight. I hope you're all here for good reasons and you're not mad at us because, you know, we get yelled at enough. Couple of things. Lewis Farm Road, I was over there Friday. The road has been repaired. Let's hope we don't have a gully washer and it goes back and, you know, we get another sinkhole. The only thing that I thought was personally upsetting was, I would say, if I was in my car, from me to maybe that board is where the solar panels start. Very big, very obvious. I was at all those planning meetings. I could have sworn they all said you're not supposed to see them, 30-foot buffer, the whole 9 yards. They're ginormous. And they look terrible, and I do not think they belong in District 1, and until I'm done, which is this year, I will always say that, because they're just, it's a commercial power plant. None of us are benefiting, and they look terrible, and they caused the washout, by the way. Let's hope that they haven't done any real harm to the brook, to Buckhorn Brook, which is stocked with trout every spring by DEM. So let's hope for that. Number 2, Benefit Street. I got a little note today on Nextdoor. I call it Nextdoor Neighbor. I think it's just nextdoor.com. That, and I don't know if anybody ever has to go down there. It's a dead-end street. RIDOT, not the town. It is a town road, but RIDOT's working on the Trestle Trail, as I've said before, because from Indian Trail to Connecticut, that's RIDOT's part of the Trestle Trail. So Mr. McGee is speaking with RIDOT, and we're going to see if we can get something done because, for instance, even our rubbish trucks go down there, and they can't get back out again. They can't turn around anymore. So Mr. McGee is working on that for us. There's been a crime alert in District 1. A couple weeks ago, there was a car stolen out of on Sisson Road, and some other vehicles were broken into. So I know still some people out in my neck of the woods don't lock their doors, but be conscious at night. Obviously, we can't really do a neighborhood watch because we can't see our neighbors, but, you know, leave your outside light on and just be conscious of what's going on out in Western. If you think there's anything going on, I get a lot of the, you know, there's a truck, I didn't recognize it, it's white, it was sitting out front of my mother's house, blah, blah, blah. Report it, okay? Please do report it. Don't be afraid to report it to our PD. They'll be more than happy to take that report, right? Thank you. Okay, another thing on a lighter note, the Hopkins Hollow Ghost Bride made an appearance Saturday night. And the PD responded because they got calls that there was a bride walking on Hopkins Hollow Road. What can I tell you, people? It's by the cemetery, you know? We live out there, so she's real. I believe in ghosts. I just gave myself chills, and I'm stopping now because that's enough. For Mr. Wazika.
Yes, ma'am.
WED, Wind Energy Development, electric bills. Have we got any information yet? Because, you know, you don't have me here complaining much longer, and you should probably make me happy before I leave. Give me a parting gift and tell me how we're doing with the electric bills.
Speechless. No, not that's unusual for me.
Yeah.
No, we have been very tied up. I have not had a chance to attack the wind energy bills myself. We now have a new finance director, which I'll be introducing momentarily. And
What's he hiding?
John, you mind standing up, please?
Oh, don't get up front.
And that will be one of the areas where we will be working on. In fact, something came up about that today, so
okay,
that is on the list.
2 years that we've been online, and we're not getting any tax money, and so I want to know if it's
John had already
beneficial.
found some things today that he brought up, and we are going to be discussing. So.
Thank you. Excellent. Good. Oh, we met last week, but I didn't bug you. Okay, very briefly. Okay, so WED. All right, next. The bond summary for the last 5 years. Total bonds that we have outstanding, how we're doing with them. Still haven't seen anything. It's been since
And I told you you would
February.
be getting that. It's on the list to get accomplished.
And Christmas is coming.
There's only so much time in a day, ma'am, unfortunately. It is on my list, and I will be getting, again, we now have a finance director, which is going to make life a lot easier.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to give him any emails yet, but, I might have to. The last thing is the discussion regarding senior tax freezes and disabled tax freezes. Are we going to be reviewing that before November?
We are doing some internal review about that ourselves. I was speaking to the tax assessor today, and he's brought up some concerns over that, so that is something we are going to start in-house. First, we will do a review, and then from there, we will move on to where it needs to. But
Okay.
we have been discussing that situation, so.
Because it's been a couple of years since the Citizens Advisory Committee did a presentation to council regarding the procedures for that. Okay. Oh, and by the way, everybody, Happy New Year. It is Rosh Hashanah, and I want to just say Happy New Year, everybody. And I'm done.
Okay, thanks for the District 1 update, and then some. District 4, I have just a couple things. One, we had a gentleman call me inquiring about the Lake Tioga flood insurance concern, and if there was any update on the town looking into. I know that some letters have been back and forth over the last several months regarding, but I know, Mr. Joyle, I think you might be able to enlighten us so that we can let District 4 residents know if there is any new news. Not necessarily tonight, but it was a concern. I got the call Saturday morning watching my grandkids playing soccer up at Fish Hill, and it's a concern to them, and I didn't know that we hadn't, I didn't know how it stood, and I just thought I'd bring it up so that we're still interested, District 4, those people are living around the lake, if there is any update. If it's been finished, then they'd like to know that as well. Another individual that came up to me this weekend, it's kind of a busy weekend, lives on Princeton Avenue, and I'd like to ask Mr. Warzika if he could just convey that to the police chief, the police department, is that a lot of speeders are going up and down Princeton Avenue. I know we have our our school physical plant individuals there, the vehicles, that's not necessarily the concern. Another concern is all the people coming from Anthony Lofts. She says traffic has never been so voluminous, that coming down Princeton, probably using it as a cut-through. She says there's no more speed signs along Princeton Avenue. There used to be quite a few. I was wondering if it would be 20 miles an hour, and she said 15. But if we could look into whether that be the police asking for some signs to be put up there, or if that's DPW on Princeton Avenue. It is a long road, and I know in my neighborhood, outside of Pilgrim, which has a lot of speeding vehicles, Princeton, I guess, has now become a close cousin. Speeders all the time, and again, I'd like to maybe even if the chief has an officer or two that might want to sit on Princeton Avenue occasionally. I do see them once in a while on Pilgrim. So just the two concerns for District 4, and asking everybody to please keep off the speed pedal. School, as we know, has been open now for a month. Also, the individual told me that even though Oak Haven School is not open, a lot of school buses are picking up children right around Princeton Avenue and side streets as well. So there are a lot of kids in our neighborhood, and that's always a concern, whether you're a parent, a grandparent, or just a good neighbor. Lastly, I did mention the polling location change, in my district, District 4, and instead of going to the Coventry Senior Center on Wood Street, which is under construction, it will be held, all voting at that location has been moved to the VFW 29 South Main Street. And that's it for District 4 update. So, Mr. Warzika, next on the agenda, B5. We already had a brief introduction, I think. I'll let you introduce Mr. John Arnett, our new finance director. You could tell us a little bit about him, and then we'll say hi to Mr. Arnett.
Certainly. John is day 5 with the town. He started last Tuesday after the holiday, and he's already diving right into all of the things that need to get caught up on from the last 3 months without a finance director. John has got multiple degrees. He's got a bachelor's in economics out of University of Connecticut. He's also got a certificate in public finance from the same university, as well as a master's of public administration from UConn. He also has a second master's in finance and economics from West Texas A&M University as well. So John's got a good pedigree behind him on the training. He was formerly with the U.S. Small Business Administration for the last couple of years, and prior to that was with the FDIC as well for a couple of years. So he's got good experience in the financial markets. John also is a Marine, you're never a former, and he...
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
05 and 06, a tour in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So I'm pretty sure John can handle the council.
Very good.
John, thank you. Welcome aboard, and good luck. There's a lot to catch up on.
Would you, okay, I was going to say, would you like to say anything to the current council?
Absolutely. So, for everybody here, my hair is an indicator of my day. As you can tell,
Is your mic on?
is it on now? You guys everybody good? Okay. My hair is an indicator of my day. So it's all down. It's diving in head first into all the documents, which pretty voluminous. But as I told Ed on the first day while I was interviewing, I love a challenge. And so I'm actually, even though it's 5 days in, I'm thoroughly enjoying my time here. So I know there's a lot to do. I'm happy to do my best, and I will. So Ed has been helping me along the way, filling me in on things, and I have a great team underneath me already. If you all didn't know that, I can already tell you right now, they're fantastic. So if you have any questions for me, feel free. I'm here. Anybody?
Well, okay, again, thank you for accepting the position, and yeah, you're well educated for being such a young individual, so I know you're going to put that to good use. It takes time to learn a new town, but Coventry can certainly use your talents, and you will definitely have support from this council and the next council as well, I'm sure. So thanks for coming out tonight, and head home and have dinner.
Well, thank you all very much.
All right.
Thanks, John. Also, if anybody Googles them and you put the name in Marines, the one that comes up is out of the United Kingdom. It's not the same John Arnett, so don't go by that one.
Two birds. Very nice. Thank you. And John, before you go, no relation to James Arnett, Gunsmoke, I'm sure? All right. One of my favorites is growing up, kid. Take care. Okay, next on the agenda, we're down to C, discussion of sewer user fee rate study update. Mr. Warzika, I'll turn this over to you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I sent a packet to everyone in the council. I'm requesting that you authorize me to begin the process of researching companies for a sewer use rate study. We have not done one since 2011. It's been over 7 years. We have an obligation under our trust indenture certificate with the bonds, the revenue bonds, that we're obligated to do an annual review of rates and charges to make sure that they meet the needs. The last one that was done in 11, those rates have not been implemented. We're woefully behind, and it's something that needs to be done so we have an accurate accounting of what we really need to be operating every year. So it's something, what I'm proposing to do is I want to go and either do an RFP or, because it's, there are a limited number of companies that actually will do these, and there are some companies that, having spoken to several different people in the industry today and over the last week or so, the concern is that there are some companies out there that will throw a low number out, and we're going to get a low result back on what they do. It's not going to be a thorough investigation. So I prefer to not do an RFP, and because it is a professional service, we really and truly don't need to do one, but I will do an informal and bring in as many reliable companies so we have choices to choose from. But I think it's something we definitely need to do. Otherwise, we will be in violation of the indenture trust that we've signed, the town has signed, and I personally signed over this last bond renewal. So, anyone have any questions or anything in reference to this? I'll be more than willing to answer.
Ed, where do we fall on this? I don't see Coventry.
We don't. We have never taken part in that survey for some reason. I don't understand why we have it.
So aren't we already behind?
We are. Well, we're way.
It was 2011, and that wasn't.
If you look, I actually gave you the 2011 study that was done.
Right.
And at the time when this was done in 2012, we were at $1.55 100 cubic feet. The following year in 13, we went up to the 283. This had recommended 285, and then that's where everything went off the rails from that point forward. And I'm not saying these numbers are accurate today, they may not be, but 2014, we were supposed to go up, or should have gone up to a $4.60 per 100 cubic foot charge to be able to meet the requirements of paying all of the bills associated with the Sewer Enterprise Fund. We were at 340. The council at that point decided to go to 340 per 100 cubic feet, and it's stayed there ever since. It hasn't moved up since 2014. I know increasing cost to people is a tough thing, but we really need to look at this because we are not in compliance with what we need to be with the sewer bonds. And that's one of the things that was brought up during this last, we need to go forward with this.
Right. Okay, and if I could ask, we have in front of us the package Woodcock and Associates. Would that be possibly one of the companies you might be looking at?
It would have been, other than the fact that Mr. Woodcock is transitioning to a period of less work.
Okay.
In other words, he's retiring.
That happens.
So he will not be involved. I spoke with him extensively the last couple of days, and unfortunately, no.
Okay.
But he did give me names of other companies and other individuals that we can go with and get.
Well, that's good too, because that's what I was going to ask if he would give you.
Yes, he did.
He already has, and we have to go right ahead and get going on this. So I appreciate you putting it for information discussion tonight in front of the council. Any other council individuals want to make a comment regarding this or the need for it, or get it going as soon as possible? Mrs. Carlson?
Yeah, I think I asked this at the last meeting about Amgen, and I did notice that the sensitivity analysis, it says that they reference Amgen on here, and their rates, are they too low?
Amgen's rates is actually locked in based on the agreement that was made back then. They are locked in till 2022, I believe, is the year that they're locked into. They have a 10-year.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, anyone else?
I think
Mr. McGee?
I think it's well overdue. I think
Right.
it's a good idea. I mean, we did our bonds so we could give us
Do
some
it.
time, and I think it definitely needs to be addressed. So
I agree.
hopefully we can find someone that can help us straighten all this out. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's hope so. Okay. Well then, thank you. And
I will be coming back with, if you approve it, then I will be coming back to the council with all of the quotes as well as a recommendation, and we can move forward from there if you so desire. But you'll have all the numbers and you'll know what we're dealing with before that happens.
Do you have
That's
any
when you
idea
bring
how
it
long
back.
that'll take?
To get the quotes, If I'm lucky, I'll have them back for you by next meeting.
Oh, wow.
I want to move this quickly. I do not want it to lag.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Warzika. Appreciate it. Next on the, no, we don't have to vote. It's just you're gonna go.
I
do
just
the
want to
work
make
and
sure that
bring
you're
it
going to
back
approve
to
it.
us.
Okay.
Right. Okay,
Are we televising? Are we on tonight?
Yes, we are.
Oh,
We're on.
that was just for discussion. It wasn't and/or action on that C. So, we're on to D now. Mrs. Amatrano, you want to explain D1 to us, or we have it in front of us? That was the renewal?
It's an application for a peddler renewal for JoJo's Cupcake
Mm-hmm.
for 90 days.
Okay, going from September 25th up to Christmas Eve. I see. And no concerns, no issues on the records check, and both Department of Health, food license, and retail sales permit has been given to the applicant. So, do I have a motion to approve?
so moved.
Or do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, that's D1. So, I think we're down to E now, if I'm not mistaken. E1. Let's see, Mr. Warzika or Mr. Gorham, or who shall introduce E1 to us and the matter before us?
I'm going to
Defer?
Mr.
Okay.
Gorham on this one.
Okay. Mr. G.
Sure. If you recall, the last time that we met, or that the council met, I should say, there was a request from the school committee to the council to assist them in an application for I guess you'd call it a project that is, I think, as I understand it, contingent upon approval of funds by the state to make certain safety and other improvements to our schools. And the last time that we talked about it, I believe both Sarah Mangiarelli and Craig Levis were here from the school department. I see Mr. Levis is here tonight. So what was discussed was whether the town council could come up with a resolution that enabled them to proceed with their application. I drew up a resolution. Before I get to that, you may recall there was a deadline, as I understood it, and I think as the council understood it, it was a hard deadline of September 21, within which the school committee had to submit their application, and one of the things they had to specify on their application was whether or not the town council had authorized a capital reserve account for the, I guess to contribute, might be the best word, to the funding of the project. The project, as I understand it, although it's not entirely clear to me, would be paid by the town, subject to, I believe, up to 60% reimbursement by the state. That's something, I haven't seen anything that suggests that it's any reimbursement, but that is the representation that our superintendent made. And so I put that in the resolution. I thought it was 55 to 60% if you look at the second whereas in the resolution. I wasn't aware of what number the town council would be willing to contribute, even with that proviso that the state would be reimbursing, because the way I understand it, the town has to put up all of the money first, and then, okay, Mr. Levis is shaking his head, so I'm not going to indulge that. We'll let him correct that. But I guess I just didn't understand, and I don't know if the council did, whether the town had to put the money up front and then get reimbursed, or whether this would be sort of a contribution from the state. If we put in 40%, they would put in 60% or some percentage.
Yeah, I think it's 50%.
Those are things I think we need clarification on. I did the best that I could with this resolution based on the exigent circumstances that we have leading up to September 21st. This is the last town council meeting that we have before the 21st. So the president and vice president very much wanted to get this before the council to give everyone, including the school committee, an opportunity to take advantage of what may very well be a very good program where the town can make improvements to the schools with some pretty significant funding by the state. So I think maybe at this point, Mr. President, it might be fair to turn it over either to the council or Mr. Levis to sort of clarify for the council exactly what we're going to do, and if this resolution properly reflects it. If not, we can change it on the spot.
Well, first of all, I agree with you. I thank you for coming up with a resolution in a timely fashion so that we could discuss it tonight at tonight's meeting, it being the 10th. And the 21st is close. Mr. Levis, welcome. I know that we had got a communication, could we have it tonight for discussion and resolution and clarification, I think, before the council. Individuals might have questions. Maybe you could further clarify what it is, the process. Is it total money up front, and is it 55% reimbursement afterwards? Or
So if you... All we're looking for, so last time, and I know it might have become a little convoluted, but we were coming just to have a discussion and say that in order to be eligible for reimbursement, and so we talked about different numbers. I shared with you, hopefully you have a copy of Ms. Mangiarelli put together a little kind of summary of different things that I shared today with Mr. Wazika.
Full paperwork I gave you guys.
And basically, what we were looking for was, when we came last time, we had just identified a pot of money, not saying that you have to give it, but asking you to look at that money. That happened to be the cell phone tower. So I wasn't coming saying, I need capital money from the town. We did have a conversation around capital funding. But what we were really looking for, so we identified a pot of money and asked you to look at that. But the other piece is, we just need to have an agreement. I'm not even looking for money, just that we will establish, the council agrees that they will support the establishment of a dedicated capital reserve account. And even without money, RIDE has said if we have a commitment to do that, then we can go forward with the application. I gave a sample letter in the packet. You'll find a sample letter that RIDE is looking for, and it basically just says that that there'll be an agreement to fund capital in the future. You already give us money. We already receive impact fees. So at the least, we received impact fees, which we can use for capital projects. But I think we all know that we need to talk long-term around planning. We had a good meeting at RIDE last Tuesday, myself, Mr. Martin, and Ms. Mangiarelli, and we're going to present that to the school committee this coming Thursday night. And I think Sarah talks about the necessity for school construction. We're going to kind of table that piece. But what we were told is we can apply for up to $500,000 for emergency funding. And we are going to hold an executive session as Ms. Bacon requested. I agree with that. We'll have an executive session. I talked to Mr. Wazika with the school committee and the town council and talk about, pardon? Well, all right. Well, I mean, what we're looking for. So here's the bottom line. We need approval from the town council to establish, forget the dollar piece, to establish, or the willingness to establish a dedicated capital reserve fund. We have an opportunity to get reimbursement. When we go through the necessity for school construction, it could be up to 65%. But what we're told by RIDE, this reimbursement would be 45%. But the way that works is if we are able to fund these projects, and it's a pay-as-you-go, so when we get an invoice, we don't need all the money up front. When we get an invoice, we submit it to RIDE, and they'll give us that 45% reimbursement. that reimbursement can be used again for additional projects. So out of the $500,000, we could end up with approximately almost $900,000 of projects. So that's an additional $400,000 by reinvesting that housing aid. The other piece is that housing aid also counts towards our maintenance of effort. We had talked last meeting about this year we're supposed to have $700,000, 1% towards maintenance of our facilities. Next year it's going to be 2%, which would be $1.4 million. And 3 years down the road it'll be 3%, which will be $2.1 million approximately dollars that we have to put aside. If we receive that housing aid, we can use that. So not only does that housing aid, we can reinvest that and get reimbursement on that, but that also will count towards our maintenance that we have to put aside. So by us finding a way to fund it, I'm not asking you for funding. I understand you know how you have to prove funding. We're just looking for a commitment to establish, and the school committee needs to do the same thing, just to establish a dedicated capital reserve account.
You got a question from our town solicitor?
Mm-hmm.
So, if we establish the capital reserve account and make it clear in the resolution that we're doing this simply to enable the school committee to to proceed with the application, would that be sufficient?
So in that packet that I gave last town council meeting.
Is that sufficient if we just do
all
that?
it says is we have to establish a
All right, that
Correct.
it does. The resolution does
Right,
that.
that's all we're asking for.
Subject to 3 very important conditions that I know at least the president and vice president insisted upon. I couldn't talk to other council
Sure.
members because I can't do that. But here are the conditions. They're at the end of the resolution. I'll just read them and make sure that you're comfortable with them, Mr. Superintendent. 1, nothing in this resolution or any funds appropriated pursuant thereto shall be deemed to increase the maintenance of effort of the town under Title 16 of the general laws. That's the first one. The second one, the town council reserves the right to determine the final amount of the contribution of the town of Coventry in its sole and absolute discretion. Okay, and then the third is the town council shall be required to fund the capital fund only upon the submission of an application by the town and the school committee and acceptance thereof by all funding authorities. So the school committee and the town council would have to agree on the application, which I think would mean the amount applied for as well. But nonetheless, those are the 3 conditions. The resolution does establish a capital reserve fund.
And I just want to be clear that no matter what the amount we apply for, is that my expectation is that I'm not expecting the council that we're going to hold you to funding for that. We have to find creative ways. What we presented last time was just to look at the cell phone tower funds. That was something that we presented and asked you to look at. So I have no problem with those
Thank you.
stipulations.
I forgot to say also, I think the school committee's been very forthcoming in telling the council that they need to get this done, and I understood it last time. It sounds to me like they only need the capital reserve account. They don't need an amount. And this just, all those 3 conditions do really is protect the council's future prerogatives to do what they think is best and how much, they can afford. So, I think I have to make a small change on the resolution, which is that I didn't know if you wanted to come with an amount, a specific amount tonight. We left a blank for that, but we could just take that out and just specify no amount tonight.
We're just looking for the establishment of,
all right.
because if you look at that document,
true.
the document said either you have a dedicated capital reserve, which we don't, or there's an agreement between the town, the municipality, and the school committee to establish. So that's all we're looking for, the willingness to establish a dedicated capital. I can't tell you, I can't force you to put money into that.
It's needed, and it would be coming one way or the other. As we were told last time, we heard from Mrs. Mangiarelli, state mandates are wonderful. But we want to in the town, and we know it's important. We had been given the 192,000 on the security, that's PA, the different schools, and we know that is possibly an amount. But we didn't know, like Mr. Gorham said, is that the amount? Or if we don't have to have an amount now, we won't. We know there is cell tower money. At our agenda meeting, the Vice President and I spoke, you know, that money is to be used for good purposes. If the council agrees that's the good purpose, then that would be the money. Where, how, and it gets reimbursed. Again, I'm still not sure about that. Is it 45% right now? Is it 55?
It would be as we receive an invoice. So whatever the project, if
Right.
the invoice came in,
Okay.
we'd have to, they would give us the 45%, right? So instead of having to have the money up front, it's only as the invoices would come in, and then we'd get the reimbursement on that invoice. So we'd have to pay 55%.
So if during that process, the council determined that's just not enough of a contribution from the state, they could say, hey, we established the account, but we just don't think that that's
Right.
a good
But
enough deal for us to go forward.
At least this allows
Or
us...
the school committee.
This allows us to
Right.
have, I mean, what I don't want to stand is say that we're not able to apply for a portion of that $10.5 million, and especially because we couldn't even cooperate to agree to set up an account without putting any funds in it whatsoever.
Right, and nor did we. We didn't want, you know, to leave you out on a limb.
Right.
And not be able to proceed with the application process. That's the whole reason we've got the resolution in front of us. It's carefully worded. I think we all agree it does what needs to be done at this point. And then the future cost, what the amount is, what the reimbursement is. Again, this letter that we got, I got, email, it said to be eligible for 55% reimbursement for the total cost. That possibly has been changed. Is that, you're saying 45% now? Okay. And changes occur as you learn the process, but still the council and the school committee will have the final say as to whether they go ahead with it or they don't.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just
You want to change the
listening
wording?
yeah, I just
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
make a suggestion. Of course, it's up to the council, but
Right.
on what should be taken out then, in light of the fact that we're not going to establish any amount of
Right.
funding. On the paragraph where it says, now therefore be it resolved, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down,
Right.
after the words State of Rhode Island,
Yes.
comma, I would take out in an amount not to exceed
Right.
$, and then the blank. I would take all of that out. So it just says, projects by the state of Rhode Island, but subject to the following conditions.
All right.
And that way, all you're doing is establishing an account. You're specifying that the council and the school committee have to agree on the funding. But at least the account is established, and they can go forward with their application by the deadline on September 21. It's pretty simple.
Mr. President, I have a couple
yeah,
of things
yes.
if I could too.
Go ahead.
I'm a little relieved because when I first read it, it looked as though we were looking for an amount, and there is no amount right now. I mean, you mentioned that we are both going to have to think out of the box and come up with some creative ways to finance. I think it's a great idea. I hate to lose 45% funding from the state, you know, reimbursement, but right now we've had a tough time trying to get capital in the last 8 years I've been in. There just hasn't been the money, and so we need to really be creative. And my personal opinion, because you guys are almost 80% of the budget, still taxpayer money, but you guys are 80% of the budget. We can't depend on the municipal side to finance. We have to work together, and I'm all about, you know, setting up a conversation and dialogue and trying to get this work. It sounds like we're going to be mandated anyway to give you guys the percentage over the next several years. It's just a tough sell. We can't tax our way out of everything. You know, when this comes up, and if we're mandated to give you, you know, $500,000,
Right.
That's quite an increase to our taxpayers. So we do both have to be very creative on the next budget session. I'm more relieved knowing that we don't have to put a fund. I'm all for setting up, you know, the language so you have a tentative agreement or however you want to word it. But we're not in the financial position. I'm glad you clarified some of the sentences that I was concerned about. I kind of read them wrong as far as we had to be responsible for, for the funding and so on. We are going to be responsible for our share of it, but we definitely need to be creative and come up with ways to finance this. So I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. I don't want us to lose this money, but it's going to be a tough year next year. It's going to be real tough, and no matter what dialogue we come up with, and it's ultimately going to end up on taxpayers' shoulders. We have to be creative and probably eliminate some things and whatever. We have to maintain our school. I get that. We have,
right, but we haven't, and I think that's why just having dialogue and conversation and finding areas where we can agree versus just just having back and forth conversation about. I mean, the reality is this is where we're at. So I wasn't coming even last week. We were just saying, would you be willing to look at the cell phone tower? We recognize that. I know capital projects. We did share the list because we walked away from here concerned that maybe the council hadn't seen the capital list that we've been submitting every single year. So you should have last 4 or 5 years at least of capital requests that was handed out today.
We have seen it, and like I said, it has been. I think eventually the school and the town is going to have to consider possibly maybe going out to a bond, out to referendum to the people, because to come up with this money, by taxing is going to be difficult. So it depends. I mean, we do have some dire needs in our school, so that has to be something that could possibly be discussed over the next year or two, or maybe next election cycle, to see how we get straightened out with all the rest of the financial mess we have. But that has to be a consideration. But there's a lot of things I'm open to dialogue for. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Craig, one question, please. The $700,000 that we have to put in, was that for FY 19-20?
So right now, we're supposed to they told us we're supposed to have it this year. However, the only penalty would be they hold back housing aid from us, and we're not, any of the projects we did in the past, because we haven't had this dialogue. When we fixed the well and other projects that have been done, we didn't receive money for some of the bond that was done in the past. There was money that was left on the table because, it was previous to our administration, maybe previous to many of the council members, but the process wasn't followed with RIDE around the process in terms of getting the reimbursement. So there were several $100,000. I don't have an exact number, but that's something that I know Ms. Mangiarelli had worked with Mr. Tebow in the past, and we weren't eligible for that. And those are projects that were done in the past. But we want to make sure. That's why, we often talks about taxpayers. If you didn't approve this resolution, you're leaving approximately $800,000 that at some point the town will have to pay, that the taxpayers won't have to pay if we can go forward with this. The $400,000 reimbursement, if we keep on reinvesting the housing aid, and that money also will count towards that percentage you were talking about. So $400,000 now turns into $800,000. We have to come up with the money, and the reason I say $500,000 because the commissioner will allow us on an emergency basis to ask for up to $500,000 of emergency repairs, and it's a pay-as-you-go. So we understand that, the conversation you had. I'm not coming to you saying I need $500,000 or $300,000, but any money we have or impact fees, if we use that, then that impact fee, say I think we have $100 and some odd thousand now. If we can use that $100 and some odd $1,000 and 45% of that comes back and we reinvest that, all that money now goes towards that 1%, that $700,000. So there's a creative way that we can use money that we will have that'll be reimbursed by the Department of Ed. And we're being told too that there'll be significant amount of money if that bond passes at the state level that we can go for.
Yeah, again, that's a conversation for another day, but regarding the resolution before us,
Sorry, no, he did. Oh, I got it. I got the answer.
Where that $700,000 that you threw out there for the 1%?
Correct.
Is that FY 19-20? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, for the council purpose, with the resolution before us.
Well, it's FY 19, I'm sorry. Right now, the current 18-19. But FY 19 is 18-19. Correct. Which we obviously don't have, but there's no penalty to us. The only penalty would be they'd hold back housing aid for us.
We need to establish for 19-20.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, the change, in addition to number one, as we have in front of us, nothing in this resolution or any funds appropriated pursuant thereto, and then we will add, including any match funds from any funding source. And then it continues, shall be deemed to increase the maintenance of effort of the town under Title 16 of the general laws. So
Not to
we
increase.
wanted to add that. Is that correct? Do I have the wording right on that?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
That, it means that no money that is appropriated to the project from any source will increase the maintenance of effort obligation of the town under Title
I have a
16.
question about that. MOE is decided by RIDE in RIGL, right?
It can be, but.
Well, we certainly didn't want to put MOE on ourselves. I mean, that's where it came from. RIDE established maintenance of effort, correct?
Well, no, it's in the general laws.
Okay, so
but-
general law, RIGL.
But
But so, how could we say, well, there's a couple other questions in this too, but how can we say that nothing in this resolution shall be deemed to increase, plus what Glenn just said, maintenance of effort? We don't determine that we have to contribute to maintenance of effort because the state mandated we do that. So can we legally say that nothing would go towards MOE when it's a state law, that we have to fund MOE?
I believe
Did that make sense?
I believe that
Okay, thank you.
an agreement between the town and its school committee that something will not be deemed to increase maintenance of effort, which is exactly what
What
this
the
says.
But in
resolution
past
says.
years, when we have gone through budget sessions,
Right.
we have been told by the finance director or town manager that we cannot direct how the school department spends the money that we allocate and that the taxpayers approve at the FTM because we have no oversight over them. So we can't say, we'll give you $200,000, but you can't use that towards maintenance of effort. Once we've appropriated and the taxpayers have approved the funds, hands off. We can't touch it. We can't do anything with it.
There was an incident a couple of years ago when Ray Spear was on the council.
Oh, God, don't bring it
And
up.
they had an agreement just like that where they gave the money that was given to the school, half was part of MOE, half was agreed to be not part of MOE. And they agreed between the school committee and the
Right.
council, and it went that way where it
That's the way it
wasn't
goes.
MOE.
And we still have to bring this, so whatever, I don't want to walk away from this without having something, right? Because then, and you talk about the taxpayers, then they're going to know that you left over probably $800,000. And I know that's not on tonight's agenda, but you're blocking us from going.
No,
Still
wait.
have to bring this to
No,
the school
Craig.
committee.
Craig, I think, and the other point is, I was expecting, now I did read the agenda, yes, and I know this came in and I didn't have it in front of me, we just got it before the meeting. I thought we were discussing what we discussed 2 weeks ago for security issues and the $197,000 you wanted. Now, all of a sudden, this is morphed into a capital fund for high-priority repair and school safety, and the school committee has not even discussed this and voted on it.
Because we have a deadline, and the school committee meeting is Thursday night. So
But they
we
haven't
talked about this last.
discussed this and voted on
So we need your
whether or
approval?
not this is the way they wanted to proceed.
We've had
By the way,
conversations about this. So first of all, we can talk about, I'd love to have
This is
dialogue.
why we should have had a dialogue last spring.
Well, we tried to, Ms. Carlson,
Last
please don't
spring?
bring that up, because we
Why
didn't have,
not?
you and I didn't, you refused to meet with us when we
I
talked
didn't
about the
refuse-
budget.
All right.
Yeah.
If you had told, no, wait, Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had told me you had some new creative way to
This
do
just
all
came
this,
about, this just came about,
when?
about 3 weeks ago.
You
Whenever
didn't know about this
Jason
before
Martin
the
went
financial
to,
town meeting?
no, this just came about. I presented this with Ms.
But you
Mangiarelli
knew
at the
about
last meeting.
school security.
We also know that we do not have any funds for capital,
Well,
so
neither
this is
do
a
we.
way, All right, I hope that you're not putting a value on security. That's all we're
Oh,
trying to do
Craig,
here.
don't even go there.
Well, I think you did last time, so.
No, I did not. Nothing is more important than the safety of our kids.
Then
I will
let's-
say
then
that
let's-
again and again
then
and
this is-
again.
this is
But
what
I
we
don't
need
like the
to
way
do.
this is coming down on the town council because you're vilifying us and making us look bad because you want the funds that we
No,
don't have the money.
I'm not asking you for the funds. I think I was
I
clear
don't like
about
this
that.
open-end, I'm sorry, Craig, but you know what? I've been doing this too long to say, first of all, it says, whereas the Coventry School Committee requested, I think it should say the superintendent. And number two, the percentage was wrong. Number three, I
didn't write the
have questions
resolution.
about that whole maintenance of effort in number one. We are going to reserve the right to determine the final amount. Not sure how we do that. And, it says the town shall be required to fund the capital fund only upon the submission of an application by the town and the school committee. Who are we applying to? It's not in the resolution. I think we need to really tighten this up, Craig, so we can do the funding and have a capital fund that you can use. And you know, you're going to have $700,000 in maintenance of effort, right? Next year it's 1.5 million, 1.2 million, on top of the humongous fat contract for the teachers. Now, let me ask you something. You got an extra $200,000 at the financial town meeting this year. Can that money go towards this?
Ms. Carlson, I'm not, all I came
Can the
forward
money
was.
go, just yes or no?
No,
Can
we
that
had
money
asked for
go towards this?
$357,000. The taxpayers overwhelmingly supported, I believe, the school budget
But
by
where's
giving
the
us the
200 But
$200,000.
can the $200,000 be used as seed
I'm-
money so we have
We're
someplace
asking for a
to start?
resolution tonight, Mr. President.
But what I'm
That's it.
asking
Just
you, you're
a
not answering the
commitment.
question. The $200,000, can you use that as seed money so when we vote on this tonight, we know there's some money in place that you can start with? Can you use the
No.
200,000?
No.
Why?
It's already been allocated.
To save
To-
all the positions
I'm-
that they were gonna lose otherwise if it didn't
So
go
it went to
through.
raises, it went, where'd it
It went
go?
to continued funding.
Let him answer, let him answer.
no,
I have the
It is-
answer.
It's
You're
his
asking- we're
responsibility
asking
to
for a
answer.
Go ahead,
Right.
Mr. Levitt.
No, I'm gonna
I think
say-
we've already had this
What I want to say
discussion.
is that we went through the budget. You know, if
Right.
you want to have the honest conversation, I asked both of you to meet with us, as we've done in the past, to review the budget so you would be informed when you vote on it.
What would be different that I've already met with you
All
in
right.
other years?
So the bottom line is,
It never gets me anywhere, truthfully.
If I may
It's in
interject.
black and white.
Yeah, please, Mr. McGee.
I mean,
We're discussing
I-
a
What's when
resolution
you don't
that
have
has
to
no
deal with
dollar
it next
amount.
year?
I had some reservations also at the beginning, but I think what he's asking for now, I'm comfortable with because it's just a resolution to get moving, to get some reimbursement from the state. It's not asking us to commit to any financial amount at this
It
time.
will be.
It will be.
Will be.
We're going to be
Deciding the amount.
mandated to do it in the future anyway. So this is just to get the ball rolling. And
Kerry,
I'm-
we were at 4% this year for the levy. We have nowhere to go.
Oh, no, absolutely. I thought you were told we have to be creative next year. This is not going to happen this year. Our budget's already set. Next year, there's going to have to be creative ways to come up with funding.
Well,
I
we
mean,
should have been creative this year, Kerry.
well, I realize that, but you know what? We presented what I thought was a reasonable budget at a 3% increase, and the taxpayers said, no, let's increase our taxes to 4%. That's the way it was. That's the way it went down. I mean, but I'm comfortable with this just asking, you know, for a resolution. We're not committing ourselves. I think them changes and the percentages need to be changed on the resolution, but it's just to get the ball rolling, and it's not any commitment, any money to, or the taxpayer money to it at this time.
But it will be.
It will be.
And where's it going to come from?
That's
Our taxpayers are taxed to the limit at this point.
And that's-
Do you see how many for sale signs are out
I
there?
absolutely understand that. That's why I stated we're going to have to.
Including my house, I'll be honest. My house, okay? Everybody's selling.
Yeah.
We have maybe a correction on the percentage amount. Is that right, Mr. Gorham? Because we did have the limited information that when it was being composed. So how would that change?
Well,
or would it change, 55 to 60%?
according to Ms. Mangiarelli's memorandum that I think we received this afternoon, it's 44%. Do you see the?
I see that
yeah,
on the first
the
page.
bold. Oh, okay. Well, I understood from the town manager that came from Sarah Mangiarelli.
No,
Finance.
Came from Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry, from the superintendent. Okay, so that says 44%. Quite frankly, it sounds like the governor's office hasn't established the percentage yet either. So this seems to be a very fluid situation.
We were just looking for an agreement, a willingness to establish a dedicated capital reserve. No money, just the willingness. We know we have more work to do.
I think
The willingness, that's all we're looking for. If the willingness isn't there, that's your choice, so.
And again, the commitment from the state may change with the upcoming election in November. We all understand that this keeps you, the school, and the town on the timeline that is for the 21st. It's no commitment of money dollar amounts, and it has to be agreed upon later. But if we don't pass this tonight, if we don't pass this tonight, then the deadline is missed.
You don't have to agree. You were totally in control of whether you allocate any capital funds whatsoever.
I understand that, and that's coming down the line later.
Pardon?
All right,
I
another
have
question.
a question, because we keep saying that you don't need a dollar amount, but one of the application requirements is you need to submit a budget estimate.
Correct.
And an immediate health and safety certificate.
So we're looking for approval from RIDE for amount. Doesn't mean we have, if we don't get the money, then we don't get the reimbursement. So if we can't come up with the funds.
But I mean, I'm just confused, because all you do have to submit.
Correct.
Okay, and I mean, at our last meeting, I asked for the safety assessment report. I asked for a copy of the Stage 1 application that you've submitted. I've asked for a copy of all the estimates from Save Our City and Sonatrol. I haven't received any of those documents. I don't know if anyone...
And then note, and we said we're going to table the Stage 1 piece, and this is about the just getting the approval so we can apply for the application.
Okay, so
all that
table it,
safety stuff, you were the one that, Ms. Bacon, you said that you wanted to do...
I asked for a copy of it, and both you and Sarah said, yes, the council will receive a copy. I asked whatever has been given to the school committee so far, could you submit to the council members so we could all review it? We have not received anything.
And the safety information that we will have, this isn't just up to me, the police department was also part of that, in terms of having a joint meeting, that the police will need to be part of that also. So that's what we plan on setting
Well,
up.
why didn't you send the estimates from these companies that you were looking at, the Save Our City and Sonatrol? I asked for those estimates. We haven't received that.
I'm not going to give you the documentation. I'll give you the documentation in executive session, just like we do with the school committee. Right. Well, I didn't hear it was stated for this.
Because one of the things we wanted to see was everything. We're going into this blindly, Craig. And like I said, the resolution also states, and Karen mentioned it, Coventry School Committee has requested. The Coventry School Committee hasn't requested anything. We haven't seen a resolution from them. We haven't received a vote from them. Hang on one second. So that's inaccurate. The Coventry School Committee has not requested this. And I understand you have a meeting on Thursday. I don't know how you all are going to vote. So it is not being requested. It's being requested by you.
We've discussed this at the school committee meeting.
But there was no vote or resolution by the school committee.
There needs to be a willingness. If you read the packet that I shared last week, the information that we gave you, if you read that, it talks
the stuff
about...
that you handed right when the discussion began. We didn't get it.
You know what, I'm not going to get into... I share information prior to the meeting. So
we didn't get it prior to the meeting.
Then I'm not...
When the meeting began,
it is what it is. But the point is, since last week you've had an opportunity to look at for the last meeting...
I read...
It's very clear in there. It says the establishment...
I read what you gave to
just
me.
the establishment of a dedicated capital reserve account. We're not looking for any money. We're looking for the willingness to establish.
Well, that was... You were looking for money last week.
No, we suggested, would you be willing to look at the cell phone tower money, not taking money on the taxpayers?
You gave us totals, Craig. This is what you were asking for. You gave us totals.
No, we were sharing that with you.
Oh, sharing, okay, but we took it as, because we had a conversation with Sarah, and she said, that money right here, if it's allocated, it will be maintenance of effort. So that's where I'm confused, where now it's not maintenance. So is Sarah here tonight?
No, she's not here tonight. This is about establishing the willingness to establish a dedicated capital reserve account. That's what the agenda item was. And that's what we're here
That's what
about.
we wanted to do.
So are you saying, to clarify, are you saying that if there is no dedicated capital reserve fund, you cannot put in that application on the
Correct.
21st?
Correct.
But
Correct.
I just don't, how can you not have an amount?
Because we
That
don't need to.
scares me.
We discussed this with RIDE. This happened quickly. We discussed this with RIDE. We have to have an agreement, a willingness between the town, because we don't have one. There hasn't been one established. There hasn't been one since I've been here. I don't know if there ever was a dedicated capital reserve account.
But we could end up with $500,000 on that line, right?
But there's no,
You threw that number,
where's
you
the
threw that number
commitment?
out.
There's no, I can't force you to give us the money. So if we don't receive funds, if we can't find funds, then those projects won't be filled.
We don't have any funds. We don't have any funds. And honestly, I keep asking for the bond information. Who the heck knows how much bond money
No.
we have out there?
So either you vote on this
Enforcing.
and it doesn't pass, and then that's where it stands. I mean,
Right.
I don't know what else to
Again.
say.
I don't want to be an obstructionist, but I don't, but we are, and yeah, Glenn, you can laugh. But, the problem is,
I
I
can.
don't like to vote blindly without solid information in black and white.
So black and white in
And
that
anytime we
packet,
deal with
black and
this-
white in that packet says if the school department and the municipality don't agree to
Nothing
establish
goes.
a count, then we can't go for it. So
Absolutely.
that's black and white.
This-
I'm not asking for money.
And that's as clear
I don't know what
as
else
At
to
some
say.
point you will.
the day.
right.
And if the
Ms. Constable, you
council
won't be here
agrees with
most
it,
likely.
the council has to approve it.
So,
Oh, I won't be here.
If-
All right.
if
then I'll
I
tell you
may.
what, I'll
We're
vote
not
no
asking for
now,
money.
So I won't be here,
We're
so
not,
it won't matter.
we're not looking for the money tonight.
If I
Well,
may.
we will, I
And if
have
the
a job to do
council-
here, and whether I'm here or not, I am
All right.
still here now.
The point is, either they go forward after we vote tonight, or they don't. All right, and that's it. No money's attached here. In the future, if the school committee and the town council don't agree on the amount, whether it's $10, then it doesn't go forward. The council has to agree on it, on the amount, whatever the amount ends up. Is that correct? Nick? Mr.
That is how I wrote the resolution.
That's
But
how,
if-
There is no.
if we find money and we don't request it
right.
from the town, I would
I
assume
got
that we
it.
can go forward.
I have it, and that's why it was written that way, so that there was no commitment on dollar amount.
I know there's some concern about, in the future, they will be asked for money. Absolutely, they will. But like Mr. Levitt said, if
Right.
there is no money allocated, and we can't come up with it in
Right.
a creative way, then that project will not go forward.
There
The
you
only
go.
thing he's asking for this evening is just to proceed with the application. If we can come up with creative ways, no, he is. There's no dollar amount on this. You need this just to be able to go with the application with the state to get reimbursed. He's not asking for a dollar amount. In the future, he will if he wants a project funded.
We got
If there's no money, it doesn't get funded, we don't get reimbursed. But if it does, we can come up with a creative way to do it, then we get reimbursement. That's all he's asking for. We're not asking to put a commitment to the taxpayers at this time.
Let me try putting this a different way.
Yeah,
It
please.
really doesn't matter what Mr. Levis has said tonight, at least not to me, because I'm here to guide you on the language used in the resolution. And the resolution says that the town council is not committing to any money. It is simply, it's establishing an account over which the town council has complete control over whether it's 1 penny or $100 or something more than that. The council will decide that, not the superintendent. The council is a necessary participant in every single future thing, if not the only participant in every single future thing, including the funding. So that's what I think the resolution as amended says, and I think it's I think it is innocuous. It's not fairly innocuous, it's innocuous in terms of a commitment of funds, because you're not committing any. You're simply not committing any funding. Why the Department of Education is accepting this as a sufficient step to go forward, I have no idea. But all they want us to do is say, we will establish an account. And when I thought about it, when I wrote this morning, I thought, well, I know the one priority that the president and vice president had was that we couldn't commit to any amount of funds.
Right.
Couldn't do it. That's why I left it blank.
And you,
But then I learned tonight they are not looking for
For
any money right now, so we took the blank out and made it even clearer that this does not commit the town council, and therefore the town, to any funding.
But does that settle with RIDE, though? Isn't RIDE going to be looking for a dollar amount? That's what I'm concerned about. I
Maybe
mean,
later on,
But
and
in the applications that you read, everything has an estimate, total amount for each
it's an
application.
estimate by the school committee, subject to this
But they have to
resolution.
provide documentation. What I'm saying is,
Right.
if we don't have a dollar amount set in capital funds for the school department, is
Right.
RIDE, if it's just open-ended, it's up to the town council. That really doesn't show that we're committed to capital improvements. So wouldn't that
Right.
reject their application?
For reasons I can't explain, I think I just said, but I understand the question. I'm going to answer it. RIDE is not looking for us to establish an amount of money yet. They're simply asking us to establish an account. I never open a checking account with zero in it. So I agree with your intuition on this. But government is not always intuitive. And this is a good example of it. Why they're saying just establish an account through your town council, I have no idea why they're doing that. But I know one thing. The way this resolution is written, the town council, even given the fact that it is establishing an account, has not agreed to put 1 penny in that account. I couldn't be clearer about that.
I think we've heard it a few times. And lastly, possibly down the line, when it comes to, if there's an agreement, there is money in the cell tower. There's money.
Don't commit that money.
I'm not going to commit anything. I'm saying that
Glenn, you can't. I
sometimes
mean, we've already
that's
talked about that
good
cell
mon-
tower
The
issue.
only way you commit money is
We've
not on the
only
agenda,
vote on
too.
it. We're not going to commit it. This kid commits to no money.
But you already give us impact fees, right? So there's already funds
All
that
right.
we have.
This is
I'm sorry, so
simply.
will you put some money into this account? I'm just worried, Craig. It is a zero account. Just like
I-
Nick said, this is.
I understand that.
These people at RIDE, okay, crazy people at RIDE. RIDE is going to let you say to them on your form, we want to do X project, and we're going to put an estimated project cost of 0 in there?
No, the project's going to have a cost. Whether we can fund it or not is a whole nother issue.
That'll
If
be
we
voted
can't,
on.
But don't they usually
No.
want a commitment?
they
I've
know,
never seen
I
anything
think they
where they
recognize
want
the
commitment.
condition, they recognize the situation in communities. We're not the only one. But for us to even be, I have to get approval from the commissioner to be, to have the availability of these funds. So I have to write a letter asking him to approve the availability so that we could access this school building authority capital fund, right? But if we can't come up with our portion, if we can't come up with the money, then we can at least have the approval.
So what's your portion going to be?
Well, it gives us 5 years to go forward to try to find funds. But I have to get it submitted by the 21st.
5 years to get
It's
funds?
good. If it gets approved, it's good for 5 years. If this gets approved, it's good for 5 years.
So,
So we're just looking right now just for the willingness of the council to say that we would have a dedicated capital reserve fund. If we need to put in, you already give us money. That money, that is
Like the
impact fees.
$200,000?
No, that was given to us by the taxpayers.
well,
The
so all
impact
your money
fees.
is given to you by the
Correct.
taxpayers,
But we're not talking about it. We're talking about now, like I'm talking about the impact fees.
right?
But you set based on other
Can you
formulas.
put the impact fees in this account?
Yes.
Will you do that?
I have to discuss that but we could use the impact fees moving forward, yes.
Well, so should we put that in the resolution that the impact fees will go in this
No,
account?
no, I'm just looking for the
Why not?
establishment because that's the decision of the
It's
school
like a good
committee.
faith thing to the town council that you're putting
Right.
some money in this account, besides us.
I'm asking for the willingness to establish a dedicated capital reserve, not asking for the town to put a penny in right now.
Right now.
You already give us funds, okay,
I got
Ms.
you.
Ms.
The
Carlson,
state's
I don't know
not
what to
asking
say.
for
Carrie, does that sound right to you?
No, you know what? Nothing that the state feels right to me. But what I'm saying is the state is not asking for an amount right now, and I get what he's trying to say. We would be doing a disservice to the taxpayers if we did at least attempt to get a 45% reimbursement for any future projects. If a project comes up in the future and we don't have funding for it, it doesn't get done. Period. But if we do have funding for it and can come up with cell tower money, if we can come up with impact fees or whatever, then the project gets done. Say they have a $50,000 project that wants to get done and we're funded, then they have the right to get the reimbursement. Okay. I think, they're not looking for a dollar amount at this time, but they will be when it comes time to do a project. They're not going to do the project unless we are committed to paying off 55% of it. No. I get that. I think we
don't have to pay the 55%. We're saying is that if we have funds available, we can get reimbursed. It would be nice to have money from the town, but if it's a pay-as-you-go and we have a small project, if we have the money to pay that, when the state gives us our 45% back, we put that back into that account. And I think that's what the document that I shared with you last week talks about, and the letter the sample letter that I gave you that needs to be sent to the Department of Ed. That's what it says. It says you'll reinvest the housing aid reimbursement. So that money. And if we get $300,000 of reimbursement, just hypothetically, and we put that back in the account, even if we just use that money, we get reimbursement back on that money. So it keeps on building. And so you can take a small amount of money and keep on reinvesting it. And that also counts towards that 1% you were talking about.
And if we don't come up with any funds,
right,
nothing gets done. But at least we have that opportunity if we do come up with funds. I think that's we're looking farther into it than we really need to.
But then in this letter that Craig gave us, the last sentence says, the municipality shall continue to fund this capital reserve fund subject to any local approval processes that are currently in place.
Right.
Well, currently we don't have anything
in place. We have impact fees. So at the least, you already give us impact fee money, at the least.
And we're not passing that letter. That's not.
No, that's not from us. It's from him.
Right.
And
we're not going to approve that.
Right. And whoever.
That's a sample.
I'm worried about the open-ended commitment to fund something when we don't know what it's going to cost.
It's not
Ed, what do you
open-ended.
think? Ed, did you have something to say?
It's very
this gives
closed-ended.
the council the ability to apply for it and nothing more. It does not require any
And
commitment.
then it adds on maintenance of effort. I know it says not, it doesn't in this resolution, but I don't.
Look,
In the application, Craig, it
Yes.
states that the project will need to be substantially completed by December 31st, 2019. So
Which are you looking at?
the handout that you gave us last week, this one?
Right.
That's what I'm asking. So these are projects that would be going
For that 1 year, but they get approved. That's for that 1 year. But we're sending a letter. This gets us into the game. I'm sending a letter. I'll talk to the school committee about it, about emergency repairs. Since we met with you, we went to RIDE and had a meeting last week. And so if you look at the letter that was from Sarah, it talks about we're tabling certain conversations till we can meet with the school committee, which will be this Thursday night. All we're asking for, and I know we gave you lots of information, but all we're looking for is just an agreement. I mean, you can write the resolution. All we're saying is we need the willingness to establish a dedicated capital reserve account without a dollar amount.
Okay, and I'll tell you what, if this backfires on the town and the taxpayers, then you can stand up there and explain it to them next year, okay? I mean, seriously, Craig, we don't have money.
How can
for
it
that.
backfire if you are in charge of giving us any money? I don't know how I can force your hand. No, it's just the honest truth.
Okay, before we vote on this tonight, I'd like to make one other correction because on the second paragraph, whereas the 55 to 60% should be taken out, and it's been recommended that we just add a portion, reimburse the town of Coventry a portion of the cost, and that way a portion would cover whatever the amount will end up being, and that amount will end up being agreed to or not agreed to in the future between the school and the town council. So it's just simply a portion of the cost. Is that correct?
Well, they're telling us it's 44%, so that should be at least 44%.
Well, what if it's
Well,
more?
what if it's more than 44%?
I
Oh,
just-
good
yeah.
luck with that one.
It'll be more once if the bond passes, because we'll be eligible for like green energy. Right now, this is just based on our current reimbursement rate.
Again, legally, a portion covers it. It can be approved or not approved in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
This doesn't commit, like Mr. Gorham says, a penny until it's further agreed on. It might be 192,000. It might be less, it might be more, but again, who will have the vote? The council will have the vote at a later date. This keeps them in the game, and it makes the deadline, and that's why the Vice President and I wanted to have it at least voted on generically with no commitments for any dollar amount, just simply to go ahead. Now, again, later on, we may just vote it down. But if we don't say go ahead, nothing goes ahead.
Well, I think we should leave the percentage in there and not just say
You want
portion.
to put 44% in there?
Put 44% or
44%.
greater, or greater.
Or greater.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, 44% or
And-
greater.
Yeah, and I would like to put in, whereas the Coventry School Superintendent has requested that the Coventry Town Council create a building authority because the school committee has not voted on this,
Well,
Glenn.
they're going to vote on Thursday night, so if it doesn't pass...
Mr. Gorham,
Oh, excuse me.
Whoa, what?
Oh, sorry.
you wanted to say something to stop
Yeah,
the
I think it
conversation
doesn't
going.
matter, and I'm sure it doesn't matter. No, I'm trying
Oh my God, if it
to, I'm
doesn't
trying
matter,
to
why
say
are
it's
we
okay to
even-
put in the superintendent, because I think Member Carlson is correct. The school committee hasn't voted on this.
We know that.
So to be honest, we can say the superintendent, and I'm sure the superintendent and the school committee will have no problem with that.
So
Right?
what-
They haven't
I-
voted
I-
on it yet, Mr. Levis, so is it okay if we put in,
Sure.
if we substitute in the first paragraph, the superintendent instead of the school committee?
Sure.
All right, so that's fine.
Whereas the superintendent. All right, that's the very first paragraph.
And
Is that correct? The superintendent of schools,
of schools, thank you.
Mr. President,
yes.
I'm hoping that the members questions have been answered, to somewhat their satisfaction, but I'd like to move to pass this resolution.
Can I just ask one more question? Number 3, the town council shall be required to fund the capital fund only upon the submission of an application to, I'd like to fill that in, by the town and the school committee. Why is the town going to submit an application? I think they're going to do it. So I think we should take the town out, by the town. I think we need to delete that. We don't have the responsibility to submit any applications, and I guess it goes to RIDE.
The reason that I put that in is so that you would be a participant in the submission of any application.
Are they going to have to
and
come
you
back?
would-
They don't want to have to come back to us.
But I think it is
For
the school
approval?
committee. We're looking for,
Yeah.
All right,
so we're looking for, again, I don't know how to make this more simple. We're looking for the willingness on the council
Right.
to establish a dedicated capital reserve fund. I think one of the things that I need to say is that the school committee has responsibility for, the care, custody, control of the schools. And I think we've done an incredible job of being transparent. I would welcome you to come to our school committee meetings and see that. And I feel that, I'm not going to come back. We know we need to have greater dialogues around construction. We had a great conversation at Department of Ed. There's a process that we will share with you that'll allow you to help drive what do our schools need to look like in the future, and engage, like you do with the comprehensive plan, the entire community. That's not what we're looking to do here. We're just looking to be eligible for certain funds that are available. So when we talk about the taxpayers, that we can get reimbursement. That's all we're looking for here.
then,
can
Member
we take out by
Carlson,
the
let me,
town?
except to be safe, because you're playing dangerously now, all right? I would put, after the words capital fund,
Yep.
put if at all.
What? If at all
So it
what?
will say, the town council shall be required to fund the capital fund, if at all, only upon the submission of an application by the school committee. and acceptance thereof by all funding authorities. This way, it doesn't presume that you have an obligation to fund. It's only if you decide to fund.
All right,
All right?
that sounds better.
Okay.
All right, so that's on number 3, and it shall be required to fund the capital fund, if at all, only upon. And then we're gonna strike the next line you're taking out by the town? Is that the second line?
Yes, by the town and.
By the town and. Okay, I think for Mrs. Amatrano's sake, and also the council that will be voting on this, maybe we can start one more time from the beginning. Have your pen ready, Mrs. Amatrano. All right, this is on the resolution of the town council. All right, the first change was what? On the first paragraph, it says what, Mr. Grom? Whereas the superintendent of schools,
Yes.
all right, has requested. All right, then going to no other changes in the first paragraph.
No.
The second paragraph,
none.
whereas the inducement to proceed with such projects is that the state of Rhode Island will reimburse the town of Coventry 44% or greater of the cost. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, that's the second addition. Going down to the bottom now, number 1, we have it where we're going to interject pursuant thereto, the first line of number 1, including any match funds from any funding source, shall, so that gets put in, and the rest stays the same. Number 2 stays the same. And number 3, the change will be, the town council shall be required to fund the capital fund, if at all, only upon the submission of an application, the school committee, by the school committee, and acceptance thereof by all funding authorities. So we strike by the town and, by. Oh, yes, we did take that out initially. I didn't say it again, but now therefore, we strike out that whole line, in the amount not to exceed dollar amount blank. That's been totally stricken from it on the resolution. That will, you've made a motion to approve with those changes, Mr. McGee?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do I have a second to vote on the resolution?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor of this amended resolution, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. What? Okay. One opposed. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. E1. Thank you, Karen. E1. No commitment. All right, here we go. E2 now, I understand, Mr. Warzika, on E2, the approval of the sewer tie-in, we're going to hold that for the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Is
That's
that
gonna be,
what's recommended, and
yes.
because of certain reasons that we can live to find out next week, next meeting? Okay, so that's held, E2. E3. Mr. Warzika, you want to begin this one? I know we got a telephone book here.
Yes, you do. This is in reference to financing the last piece of the upper pond financing for the bond of the dam repair that was actually authorized by prior council, with unfortunately funding not covering the entire cost of the project. So this is to fund the remainder of the remainder amount, and Kevin's going to go through it all.
Mr. McGee, good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When this project was undertaken, town council at the time, under the leadership of town manager, Mr. Hoover, received an initial assessment by the engineer, Fuss & O'Neill, of a range cost of between $350,000 to $750,000. At that time, he felt he wanted to be in the middle and issued the judgment bond at $550,000. After we went out to bid, we received the bids, and they all came in way over budget. We went back out and redid the bids and came in with the lowest responsible bidder at $573,100. We had also awarded contracts through Fuss & O'Neill for the actual design and through the administration of the contract and construction services of $89,000. Plus, there was a cost of issuance for the bond in the amount of $12,000. Excuse me. Judgment cost of issuance was $15,496. Back on October 25th of 2017, I provided a letter to Mr. Waters and Mr. Tebow, the finance director at the time, about the cost breakdown of where we were for the project and what we were going to need to complete the project, because we already knew that we had exceeded the contract that the council approved for both Fuss & O'Neill and for T. Ford, which was the construction company, exceeded the amount of the bond itself. During the construction process, I was able to do some value engineering with the Fuss & O'Neill and with the contractor, and we were able to get a credit change order of $33,000 that lowered the actual cost to the project. We are before you now to the council asking for the balance of the funds. The project is at 99%. They're doing some touch-up looming and seeding now that the planting season has begun, if it ever stops raining. And we contacted our bond counsel, Karen Grandy and Steve Massaroni, and both indicated they provided a draft resolution. Mr. Massaroni at the time from bond counsel suggested that we combine this bond issuance with the next requisition from the Police Department Human Services Project, and then reimburse it. The cost of issuance, instead of it being a standalone cost of issuance, is around $12,000. The cost of issuance would only be around $5,000. It would save the town about $7,000. We would then be able to reimburse the general fund at that point for the balance when the bond is issued at the time that the next requisition for the police department is made. We're not taking the money out of the police. It's going to be a separate line item, but they're going to issue it at one time. All the documentation will be one time, one for the judgment bond difference and one for whatever the amount that they're requesting from the police department.
And Kevin, that would be instead of paying two issuances, we'll
pay
just
one.
pay one issuance, but it's not coming out of the DHS funds.
No.
It's a whole separate fund, but rather than issue it twice, we're saving that money. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
We have the resolution that the council had passed back on, I think I provided that to you folks. That resolution was provided. Yeah, let's get it back here. I don't have your pages set up. I have my.
78 of 272 is ours.
No, that's the new. This
Oh, that's
the
the new
wants
one,
you to
yeah.
approve.
What do you mean, the old one?
I have no idea.
Yeah, just getting the resolution that town council has passed for the original contract for T. Ford in the amount of $573,100. Just get that.
Why don't you give them a numbered packet?
That's what happens when you have so many papers.
We're never going to be able to find that.
And at the same time, the solicitor had had a question regarding whether or not the town owned the dam, and that was brought up at the same time at the town council meeting. And I wanted to point out that back on January 14th of 2009, DEM had asked a question that if the town, I'll read it exactly as their letter is to Mr. Sprague at the time, if you do not believe you own the dam, you should provide DEM with any and all documentation relating to the proper ownership. In 2009, that question was brought by DEM. The town from 2009 to 2015 did not provide, or nothing that I have, provided any documentation that allowed us to believe that we did not own the dam, and that's why the town council at the time approved the issuance of the contract for T. Ford and for Fuss & O'Neill.
Did the town council approve the consent agreement, the consent order?
Once again, this question, Mr. Gorham, you brought up at the last time when the contract was awarded, and that
No,
was
no,
answered then.
The consent order.
Yeah,
with the
you brought that
DEM.
you brought that question. It's all part of the documentation. Everything I have on this project is in the documentation here. Everything from DEM's letter, whether the town council approved it before my time, I don't have that answer for you. But I have agreements from the town manager with DEM regarding the responsibility and the violations that were noticed by DEM towards the town.
One thing I would point out that I've looked and looked and looked for any approval of this by the town solicitor, and I don't see any. In fact, the town solicitor never even entered his appearance. This is back before my appointment, back in late 2013 and early 2014. The certification by the attorneys at DEM was to Thomas Hoover, who was then the town manager. An attorney for the town council did not even enter an appearance in the administrative adjudication court on behalf of the town. It was never done.
Once again, Mr. Gorham, this is all items that you brought forward at the time. I have the resolution here. It was resolution number 80174895, dated August 21st of 2017. At the same time, Mr. Gorham, you sent an email to the town council, to Mr. Waters, and your comment here is, I think the DM settlement is within the bonding authority under 4512 4.4. Understanding the
right,
judge.
Because a settlement is, but listen, I said that it was within the bonding authority.
Correct.
And it is because the town manager signed it.
Correct.
But no person, to my knowledge, no attorney ever looked at that agreement. Now, if the town manager signed it and no lawyer for the town ever looked at it, that is it's probably a binding consent agreement nonetheless, but it sure is unfortunate because a lot of these cases can be negotiated to a point where they're less costly to the town. That was never done in this case, and I became solicitor long after the consent order was signed by Mr. Hoover.
And before I was here in the town also. But again,
I think it was 2013. I think you were the
2013 is when I started.
Yeah.
November.
So, all right. So
November, yes. Now, listen again. The town council had your argument at the time when they passed this resolution to fund the project. So, my question to all you folks is that we contracted with contractors to complete a project. We entered those contracts with them. They are at 99% completion of the project. We knew back a year plus ago that we were going to be short $100,000. All I'm before you today is to take care of the obligations that the town is indebted upon to complete payment to these contractors for the project. Irregardless of legal arguments, we went into contract negotiations. We entered into a contract. The town entered into a contract with both firms, and it's up to you folks if you want to pay the bills that the town indebted itself to.
But there's a provision in the consent judgment that says that any new enforcement action brought by the DEM entitles the town is not required to fund that or to perform that work. And that means that it's not part of the consent agreement. And it says that the town has the right to a hearing. So one of the things that should be established here tonight, and that if it's outside of the consent agreement, yep. That is, we have a right to be heard and we can contest it.
And there was a hearing, sir.
Well, hold on. If it's outside the consent agreement, then it's outside the bonding authority of the town. And I just want to make sure that you're telling us that there's nothing new here than what was agreed to in that consent agreement that you put in the package.
I'm telling you, Mr. Gorham, that there's nothing new from the time that the town council passed the resolution back in 2017, after this argument was already made.
That argument wasn't made.
Oh, yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
You brought that forward.
It absolutely was not.
You brought that forward, sir, that you had a question whether or not...
Well, you can check the minutes. I absolutely did not bring that forward.
Once again...
No, I did not.
Once again, sir, all that's before you, the council tonight, is that whether or not you want to pay the bills that the council incurred. Well, again, we knew then that it was a possibility that we were not going to have enough money because
What
we
is
took it in
it-
the middle
what-
of the road.
I simply want to know one thing. Is the reason that you're asking for more money, does it have anything to do with a new violation that the DEM has
No.
brought? That's
No,
all I'm
not-
asking.
not at all.
All right. And is it due to any new remedial action that the DEM is asking the town to do that might be related to or somehow ancillary to the original notice of violation?
Nothing has changed, sir, from the time that the resolution was done for the award of the contract. Nothing, DEM has not.
So then why did the cost go up?
It did not go up. We only, the town council only had a judgment bond for $550,000. Mr. Hoover felt that he wanted to be in the middle of what Fuss and O'Neill provided, $350 to $750. We didn't know what the exact number was going to be. He went down the middle. The council awarded contracts that exceeded that $550,000. All we're saying now is we need the additional funds, which we knew then we were going to need to bring up to where we needed to be for the judgment bond, and we're just going to pay them for what we've already contracted them to do. There's nothing new. We've actually reduced the contract amount.
Well, going forward in the future, and I did make this point, you're right, in 2017, every single agreement that the town makes to fix a dam or anything like that, anything with DEM, should be reviewed by council. And I wasn't the council
I
then,
agree. I certainly
but
agree with that.
I cannot believe that the town entered into an agreement that required them to spend almost $750,000, and they never consulted legal counsel.
Well,
That
there-
is just unthinkable.
There was a
And
le-
now we're
there was a
paying,
letter from the council.
and now the reckoning has come.
Well, there was a
and
letter.
we're
in the-
going to have
there
to
was
pay.
a letter here from council at the time issuing their responsibility, and that's in the package.
Who was the council at the time? I couldn't find it.
There's a lot of letters just from Hoover.
Every letter that I saw was from Hoover. The only reference that I saw that alluded to the possibility that an attorney looked at this was on page 263 of the packet, where it indicated that Paul had reviewed it. And that's probably Paul Sprague, who at the time was not the town solicitor, but I think was the town planner.
I think at one
And,
time, he was
although
actually the interim.
I think Paul Sprague might have been licensed to practice law at the time, but his duty was not to protect the legal interests of the town. That's the only thing that I've seen that even suggests that an attorney looked at this. And, you know, the consent agreement, I believe, was executed after you became the Director of Public Works. And in fairness to you, I mean, Mr. Hoover, for whatever reason, decided to sign this without council, as far as I can tell, ever having signed off on this. But it's an agreement because the town manager signed it, and we're stuck with it.
Well, Nick, even on the top of 263, it says, to Tom and Kevin from Bob Joyle, is Fred reviewing the consent agreement, and do either of you have any comments? There's no answer to whether or not council if Fred was reviewing it.
You're right.
The,
Fred Tobin was the one that I saw, a letter from him in the packet somewhere.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not in there,
There
but
is.
I couldn't find it. I went through it.
This chain, I'm saying, in the chain itself.
Yeah.
Well, look, no attorney ever even entered their appearance in front of the DEM to defend us, which is typical. So you've got Judge Spinella at the DEM. He's an administrative adjudication division judge. They're the ones who decide. Those judges decide whether the town is responsible or not. He signed an order and sent a copy to Tom Hoover, not to a lawyer.
Once again, sir, we're spinning our wheels here. This is not about what Mr. Hoover did, what the town did back, or should or shouldn't have done with council. We're here about a bill that the town has incurred. And
But I want to make the point. I think it's an important point to make for the council. Please
the point is taken, but if you look on page 270, there's a letter sent to Mr. Hoover stating that the town of Coventry does not object to ownership of the Upper Dam Pond.
Right.
This is just work that,
Right.
right, but I
Right.
mean, this is work that's done, it's a bill paid, we either pay now, like we had the
I
same
am- I
instance
understand.
with the Amber, we either pay now or we go to court, we pay court fees and lawyer
You're right,
fees.
but I
mean,
want to tell you, I have had trials in front of the Administrative Adjudication Court on the responsibility of landowners to pay for a dam, and the DEM judges have found that there's no responsibility to pay. It all depends on the facts,
Okay.
and I don't see any inspection of the facts in this case.
Okay, we've probably gathered that.
I have a question.
Okay, a question, and then,
Kevin, when you were reading, at the very beginning, you said you had a letter, I guess, from you to Graham Waters and Bob Tebow dated
2517.
10/25/17.
Which was provided in the package.
Okay, well, we
That
have
was-
quite a bit.
You gave us
Okay.
plenty of information.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of duplicates also.
I don't know what came through
So-
in your package, but
I don't know what page
would you like
it
it?
is.
Would you like a copy of it? Would you like to see my copy?
Do we have that in our
I think,
packet? I don't remember seeing that in my packet, but thank you.
we do have it right here. It's
Do
right
you
there.
have it? Oh, what
Yeah,
page?
page 81 of
Oh,
872.
81, yes, we got it.
Okay, thanks. And this is the 100, what's the additional cost? 105? Okay.
It could be anywhere as low as 80.
You gotta go to the mic so they can hear you.
okay. October 25th, 2017. We've all
So
got
what
page
fund are we
81.
looking at to take the money out of?
Wherever we.
General fund?
Once again, it was a judgment bond. I don't know where Finance Department took that money
The
from.
judgment bonds, just for clarification, don't go to the taxpayers.
That's correct.
They don't vote on a judgment bond.
Correct.
So
And I can't answer how that was a
Ed,
finance issue, how that happened.
what funding source does this come out of if we approve it? Not that we owe them the money, but where are we gonna, how are we gonna pay for this?
The original thought was they were going to go back and redo the judgment bond to come up with the funds to pay this bill. That's what we were supposed to be doing.
Correct. Where they originally came from, where the judgment bond was being paid out of, I don't have that
Yeah.
answer.
There was a judgment bond that they took out for the $550,000 on this thing.
So what happened to that idea?
No, I don't know why this changed with Karen Grandy. I'm gonna speak to Karen myself
But
on.
how can we vote on
but-
this if we,
Well, you're authorizing the funding, paying it. We
well, I'd
will.
like to know where it's coming from.
Oh, I will too. You'll have it back in front of you on it. I've gotta find out on that one, because I thought it was coming out of the judgment bond.
It is.
It is.
Yes, it's an extension of the judgment bond. We knew at the time that this contract was awarded that there wasn't gonna be enough money. The discussion then with Mr. Tebow and Mr. Waters, the council, was when we know what that final number is, we'll come back and add to the judgment bond. And that's where we are right now. We knew a year ago plus that we were gonna be short because of what we already were under contract for.
So we had a
50,000.
573,000,
550,000
but then we added more.
573, 100 on,
is a contract for the construction work, which there already exceeds the 550. We had she has my paper.
It exceeded their contract.
15,000 and change for cost of issuance. And then we have contractual for the design and implementation by Fuss and O'Neill, the engineering company. So,
I get, and I understand, I said, but on August 21st, 2017, we have the resolution awarding to T. Ford the $573,100.
correct.
And then just a few months later, October 25th, 17, now you're saying we're over 105,000, the project's going over 105,000. Then in November 30th, 2017, we have a change order to reduce
That's correct.
$33,164.58. So I guess, I'm just trying to figure out, again, why didn't this come before council? And
I gave it to town manager back on October 25th of 2017. At that point, it was up to the town manager. I can't dictate.
but I'm just saying, but when we had even all of our budget discussions, I asked about this project, and is anything budgeted? I know we have the phosphorus study going on,
Separate.
and anything, but you knew that this, because we obviously didn't know.
But it wasn't coming out of the operating budget, man, it was coming out of the judgment bond. That's why the answer to your question then was, no, there's no additional cost to the operating budget at that point for the budget. Now, we knew the original contract, let me just, if you don't mind, if I can read through this quickly. The original contract was $573,100. We had a deduct change order of $33,164 for an adjusted contract of $539,935. The amount that we've paid to T4 to date is $464,770.18, which leaves us a difference owing them of $75,165.24. The engineering cost was $89,285. We still have a balance owed to them of about $1,675. The cost of issuance, if we do a standalone, is going to be approximately $12,000. If we bundle it with the next bond request, it'll be approximately $5,000, according to bond counsel. They suggested we do a bond request for, I believe she wrote $150,000. Not that we're going to use it, but no, we won't use it, ma'am. The range right now that I'm looking at is going to be anywhere as low as $82,000 up to $129. So they will never be to the 150, but she said rather than coming back to the council for some unforeseen, we're done. We're looming and seating again in a couple of weeks. There's no more money. There's no more project to be done.
Can I ask a question, Nick? Sir?
Sure. Yes.
These kind of bonds.
Yes.
So we bonded 550, or Mr. Hoover bonded 550 for this judgment bond. That's the amount of the bond, right?
Yes.
And it didn't go to taxpayers, it just goes because it's a judgment bond. How do you exceed the total amount of the bond? And it's legal.
Well,
You know, I mean,
you would have
so-
to do a refunding of the bond. One of the
So
related.
did that all happen?
Well, I can't find the first resolution authorizing the initial bond. Is that in the packet?
I don't know if there was.
Because-
Again, that was a finance.
Okay.
I don't have
Well,
that
let me
documentation.
tell you why I'm asking. If you go to page 78 of our packet, of the council's packet, and Mr. McGee, that would be the first page of the bond that you contacted Karen Grandy to prepare.
Okay.
Okay? Which I think ends on page 80 with a date of August 2018. So that's something you recently asked her to do. She's our
Correct.
bond counsel.
That's correct. We didn't have a finance director at the time, and
Yeah. So it says, in addition to any sums heretofore appropriated, this is on line 1, section 1, page 78. It says, in addition to any sums heretofore appropriated, the sum of $150,000 is appropriated to finance and repair of that certain dam known as Upper Pond. But it doesn't say the amounts previously appropriated. And I can't find a resolution in this packet, and I could be mistaken, but I can't find a resolution appropriating any money to this previously. So where is that resolution?
once again, council, that would have been a finance issue going to the council. I was not privy to that information in my file. This is from my files,
But-
and I was told by the town manager that that was approved at $550,000.
But how do we know? I mean, the
You'd have to go back
trouble
to the
is
finance
that
records. I don't have that.
The concern I have is that it may be that we are still underfunding this appropriation by giving it only $150,000 because we never appropriated the money that you've talked about as if they've already been appropriated previously.
It's already been paid.
We don't know that it hasn't, sir. We don't know. How do we pay that amount? We've had the funds up to this point, and we've paid that.
Where did you get the money?
Sir, once again, I'll say it slower. Check with the finance department. I'm not the finance
Well,
department.
so is the money in an account?
Yes, in the finance department.
Oh, no one knows where it came from.
Well, I'm sure the finance department knows.
All right.
Okay, then I suggest we table this till the next meeting. We have a new finance director. Maybe in the 2 weeks between now and then, he can get some more information. Because Nick, I agree with you. This is so confusing, and I just don't understand how I know how we've gotten to this point. The project went over, but
the
before
only-
we approve any more money,
Well, if they have the money,
yes, are we sure?
We've
I
paid
think
it.
Mr. McGee says he's sure.
We've been paying all the bills up to this point.
Yes, but
460.
now you need extra money, so where's,
We don't need extra. We knew going in, ma'am, when we approved the project, that it was not going to be properly funded. We knew that when you awarded not you personally, but the council awarded the contractor $573,100. When it awarded the $89,000 to Fuss and O'Neill, we knew then that we had expenses that exceeded the $550,000. We knew we were going to have to come back later when the project was completed.
Right.
Again, we have been able to reduce that project by $33,000.
But was there ever an appropriation by the town council for the money that you've already, I guess, committed? The $550,000?
It was a judgment bond already.
But where's the bond? I don't see it. I don't see a resolution authorizing a judgment bond.
Once again, you'd have to check with the finance department.
I think
I don't have that.
it's probably gonna be a phone call, maybe down to our previous finance director, if we can't find it in the finance records. It shouldn't be that hard.
Well, do you remember?
I mean, I can see tabling it.
I'm trying to solve it. I'm not trying to create a
Well,
problem.
we're not gonna solve it tonight, because we don't have the records.
Did you contact Karen Grandy to draw up a resolution for that?
For the,
Yeah, for
for
the
the five-
$550,000.
I wasn't the finance director then. I wouldn't have done that. That would have been the finance
I know you
director.
weren't. Well,
The only reason why I
but
was
you,
assisting,
but you contacted
Because
Karen
we didn't
Grandy
have a
for this-
finance
for
director.
this resolution.
because we don't have a finance
Finance
director.
director.
And I was
Alright.
assisting Mr. Wazeker in getting that information. Pay it, don't pay. I'm just telling you, we've already spent.
I would highly recommend that we table this.
Right.
We'll do the research. I don't like doing this any more than anybody else does, but under the circumstances, we will dig out the original bond. We will have all of that, so we'll have the answers that you need.
The 24th is coming, it'll just have to wait 2 more weeks.
All right, once you have that information, you don't need me back to rehash the same information again, right?
you never know.
I'm trying to
I think
escape.
if Mr. Warzika is satisfied, then, he won't call you back.
Thank you.
If he needs to be called back, call you back. But I think the answer ought to be able to be found. Again, it's been a little disarray in the
understand.
last year or so, and we'll get you the answer. All right?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a good evening.
And a motion to table. Do I have a motion to table it? Okay, a second? To the next meeting, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Aye, table to the next meeting.
You did? I had it.
Okay. We are through E. If anyone had some F on your agenda, that was inadvertent, that will not occur. There's no F. So we'll just kick down to G. G is general public comment. So at this time, we'll entertain any general public comment right there. The first gentleman and then the next gentleman in blue. You, sir.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Your name and address, as we know, for the
I think
record.
you know me, but I'm gonna...
I know, state it again. Yeah.
So you can hear me. My name is Richard Reynolds, and I live at 501 Village Green Circle, Coventry. And thank you for allowing me to speak. My problem, community, we're an over 55 village. And the taxes are on seniors, veterans, fixed incomes, widows, and widowers. Age groups anywhere from 55 to 60 to 90. We have a couple of 90s. We pay same taxes as the rest of the town, which we receive nothing in return. The rest of the town gets their trash picked up, they get their roads plowed, they also get their roads repaired. We have none of that. We have to pick it up ourselves. The rest of the town just gets it free. We don't. Nothing from the town. Why do we pay extra? We pay for snow removal, trash pickup. It costs us $40,000 extra a year for the snow and the pickup of the trash. We also pay in taxes to the town $382,000 for 85 condos. I think we should get something in a return. I watched the man come down with a truck and picked up all the barrels. He did it in a little over an hour to pick up the trash. Now, do you think the amount of money we pay, that we should get something from the town? We're not receiving anything. Simple as that. Furthermore, snow removal, only time the town really recognizes it is tax time. Otherwise, we're non-existent. We're just sitting out on the edge somewhere, and we don't bother us. We won't bother you. But when tax comes, get it up. We do. It also cost us, as I said, $40,000 for removal and the trash. I think the town should do something for us. I feel certain they should do something for us. We pay our taxes. We keep out of trouble. We have no children to get on the buses in the morning. We don't have any of that problem. We're not taxing a school, but we're paying for them. I think, again, something should be done for us. What is your opinion?
I thank you for your comments. I know we've talked about this many times before. It's a private dwelling, yes. And the answer is the same. The answer is the same.
What's the answer? Do you remember?
It is Center of New England's roads. It's not town roads.
It's not a town road.
Right. But I mean, in other words, you buy a private dwelling over there in a private association, and the town is not going to be picking up your trash. And it's many times we tell you the same thing, and I don't think it's going to change this council, and I'm pretty sure not next council, because there's other people in your same situation. They're in the same situation. You'd have to do it for all private associations, and they're just not going to. That's my answer. All right, I have no other answer.
We are different.
Well, okay, I hear you.
We are over 55.
I understand.
You people are not working. They are retired. This is non-productive. But we're paying our bills just the same. And so far as it being private, I want to tell you, there must be tens of thousands of trucks and cars that use that road out there, and there's no sign up there that says, this is a private road. Don't use it. None of that. And yet daily, and you've got to tell me that because of that factor, although we're paying our bills, you won't do anything for us. I don't believe it. You are veterans. We have veterans down there, and they're just being abused because they have to come up with the money themselves. Not fair. Absolutely not fair.
Okay, thank you.
Furthermore, I've got to ask you one question. How many people here think the town has given us the business? Would you please?
All right.
There you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, next. Mr. Asselon. Thank you, sir.
We have the only one.
You made that clear?
Yeah.
All right. Right, would you want to say that or no?
We have the only 55.
All right, Nick, our town solicitor wants to just make a comment for you, too.
Mr. Reynolds, we went to the Village Green last summer with the receiver, not last summer, the summer before, I think it was actually, the summer of 2017 with Mr. McGowan, and we met with the entire association and we fielded all the questions about the Center of New England, which you're a part of. And most of the questions had to do with that topic, that is the same topic you're talking about, taxes, but also about the viability of the park. And the truth is that the center of New England is a private park, and every piece of asphalt, every sewer line, every water line in there is privately owned. They were put in by Mr. Cambio, and he's had an...
If he's gone, he's not
Okay,
in there
but you want to know
Yeah.
something? No, in fairness, you bought from the guy you just called a thief. Okay, and
Right.
that is deplorable. If you feel that you were robbed by Mr. Cambio, that's deplorable.
He's
But
got
you know
nothing
what?
to do with it 'cause he's out of there. We are on
No, the
our own.
agreement that he made with the town, which stands to this day,
I tell you,
which
that
is
was-
which is still in court, okay?
To me,
is
it was very suspicious.
I
The
agree.
agreement between the town and the contractor.
Um,
I'll tell you right now. I'm
Well-
not accusing anybody. but
well, that
I'm
that was
talking-
a that
it
was
leaves
back
me doubts in
in
my mind.
you know what?
What went on?
Mr. Reynolds, but the truth is that when Mr. Cambio sold those condominiums to you, if you have an issue with Mr. Cambio or the representatives of his who sold you the condominiums, that's your remedy. Your remedy is not the town. The town treats the condominiums at Village Green the same as it treats all condominiums, including Highlands, right in the center of New England. The Highlands condominiums, they have to pay for snow removal and everything else. The town doesn't pay for that. And if you go elsewhere and look at other condominium associations in Coventry, it's the same thing.
Sir,
So,
we're a 55 and older community where we are unique in the town of Coventry.
yeah, I understand.
Okay, we're the only one.
Right.
No.
Well,
And our
Yeah.
taxes are exorbitant, and we have no children in
All
the
right, I didn't get your name, ma'am, and your, for the address for the record. And ma'am, you-
I wrote it
name.
down.
Okay, we've got it.
$382,000
You
and...
couldn't give us 1 hour to pick up the trash and maybe how much the snow plow and a little bit of salt? That's pretty expensive.
The
my
town,
friend.
I know, but the town does not pick up garbage on private property.
But-
That's
but
what it
The
is.
town is making a lot of money from
The-
that private property.
Mr. Cambio's agreement was,
All right, everyone, please, one person talking at a time. We've already thanked you, and we understand your concern, okay? And we have another speaker that wants to come up now, okay?
So this is the same line I got from you for the last 12
Well,
weeks.
sir, I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be the same answer, okay? I know you don't like the answer, but that's the answer. Now, I have another speaker that wants to come up behind you. Thank you. I've given you more than 3 minutes.
Fine.
Thank you.
Going to the governor.
Thank you. Whatever governor is gonna be. Yes, Mr. Assalone.
Non-productive.
Thank you.
I'd like to comment on this situation if I can, or does that take up my time?
Your name and address for the record, and then
Okay, my
public
name is
comment.
John Anselon, 6 Veronica
All right.
Court.
Thank you.
And the most popular guy to beat up is Nicky Cambio. However, you had a tax treaty with Nicky Cambio that was changed by the town, not by Nicky. That receiver has already spent or taken $1 million out of that project. $1 million is arbitration between attorneys. It's a lot of money. Goes a long way. So as you continue to beat up Nicky, you ought to check some of your records. Anyhow, I think it's about time this town has a mayor. And to start with, look to your left. Look to your far left. You know, the last clown you had in here almost destroyed the fabric of this town. I mean, everybody knows that, and nobody did anything about it. He ruined the people that were working here. He was just picking on everybody, did nothing, brought no jobs, chastised you for the project over here at, which I appreciated you voted on, the planning board voting on, over at River's Edge, chastised you for that because it was industrial. Because he was not from the town, had no skin in the town, he did not know you only had 3 acres, 5 acres of usable land there. He knew nothing what he was doing. Now, because I picked on him for that, and when I sent you a letter, and I also picked on him for a few other things. I told him one day at your meeting here that if he picked on another town employee, okay, I would give them the best attorney. Now, since that happened,
I believe that I have been really treated bad, not monetarily, but I want to ask you, jump to a subject. The bonded indebtedness of the town of Coventry for sewers, why isn't Coventry paying their share? Anybody answer me that? You got $3 million that nobody talks about. Now, did the last treasurer bury it? Does Nick know about it? Do you know about it? The police department is already $1 million over budget because of the sewers. Why do the people on the sewer line have to pay for this? Can anyone tell me?
Well, I know things are being looked into, and I know a lot of the town buildings have not been paying sewer fees,
Yeah,
and it's
you're right,
being
but why-
discussed.
but
I understand that.
Okay.
We're not going to solve that tonight, but I appreciate your comments.
Okay, let's go on to the next thing. I believe that because of my comments to the manager, that between him and Nick, all of a sudden, the people of Westwood Estates, and I'm concerned about the seniors, that never had impact fees, I don't think you realize you place an impact fee on two-bedroom homes, 900 square feet. It's the biggest cash generator in the town of Coventry, Westwood Estates, the biggest. They sell homes for $70,000. All of a sudden, after my issues with the manager and Nick, you place a $7,500 impact fee on the community. How could that possibly be affordable housing? It doesn't make any sense. It just stop, and then you go to the General Assembly every year and you say, gee, let's count Asalone's Park, not anymore, as affordable housing. How disingenuous is that? Senior citizens come over to River's Edge, a $5,000 impact fee from a resident, from a senior in Coventry, sells their house to downsize, comes to our project over here, you charge them $5,000 for impact fee. What are the impact? Where are you going with these things? You're destroying the fabric of the community. You have residents that downsize from Coventry, not my home, to somebody else's smaller home, new home. $7,500 is wrong. It's just wrong. Can anybody address that? Did you know this?
We have fees set, and I'm not here tonight to address it, no.
And Nick, I think this all started once you got involved with the manager. I mean, the record shows it. Since I went after the manager for his conduct, so I went after him for his conduct, okay?
No.
2 times, all of a sudden, impact fees. Why is that?
That's the rule. That's the
No,
law.
it wasn't
That's
the
the
rule.
law.
That was
No.
Okay.
You know what? I'll answer your question.
Yeah, all right.
The rules
Let's
on
hold it
impact
down.
fees were never enforced.
Oh, they were
And
never,
they were not
that was the
enforced.
rule.
No, in fact,
For for 35 years, I started
Right.
that project,
Well-
okay? And there was never an impact fee. I challenge you and the manager for what you were doing in the community. All of a sudden, there's an impact fee. What does that mean? That's a rule?
No, I'm not going to argue the point with you.
Okay.
I think you met with us, and I think I thought we actually, you asked for my opinion on certain of the lots at the Westwood Estates. Certain lots at Westwood Estates, and I gave a fair and impartial opinion about impact fees, and obviously you don't like it.
Well, look, well, first of all, I'm not, what's going on this evening
But
does not
I
affect
call them
me.
as I see them.
Let me
That's
be
the way,
clear.
that's what I'm paid to
What
do.
I'm speaking about this evening, the way of people being treated, it does not affect me by 1 cent. Okay? You're destroying the affordable housing in Coventry by your actions, by your new rulings. I'm not gonna make any money if you change any of this, but the people in Coventry that lived here and paid taxes for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, $40, $50, $60,000, okay? They should be charged an impact fee for moving and downsizing? You think that has any fairness to it?
Is that a question?
Yeah, it's a
My
question.
job is to read the ordinance and tell the council what it means, and the town manager, and that's exactly what I did.
Okay?
And I know you don't like the actually, the fact that you don't like the result, that's actually news to me, because that's not the way you talked about it previous.
Tell me how we talked about it. How you-
excuse me? No, I said this is the rule and this is how it has to be enforced. You weren't happy with it, but you didn't come and, vent like this at a town council meeting, to be perfectly honest.
No, I didn't, but all this has come together, okay, and I see what you've done.
I have read the rule and interpreted it in a way that I think is fair and impartial.
Situation in Nicky Cambio, okay? How is Nicky Cambio responsible for this situation? They don't know the background of what went on with that. Nick's a bad guy. That place, you have not brought one job to this community, not one. Cambio brought jobs into this community. The building industry that I'm in and proud of, they have brought millions of dollars of tax of local people. Spend that money in Coventry. They bring jobs here. The manager has not brought one job here. You've not brought one job here. So these people have paid all their lives, okay? I don't understand what you're doing. And the last but not least, you're involved in the sewers. The past treasurer was involved in the sewers. Now, were those books cooked? I don't mean somebody stole the money. All of a sudden, $3 million, I have to pay an extra fee for sewers, okay? An extra fee, $6,500 to connect a 900 square foot home, and you've not paid 1 cent to what your obligation is. You just let this go?
Okay.
Is that a yes?
Are you saying, when you say you, who are you referring to? The town?
I'm talking to you as a leader of you. You're telling you all the mistakes other people make. You said it 5 times tonight. You had nothing to do with it. You didn't review it. So have you not reviewed the sewer issue?
No, who are you referring to, though, when you said you? Did you? Oh,
I'm. Reviewed the sewer issue?
I haven't paid sewer fees. Is that what you meant then?
The sewer issue that the town.
Oh, I've reviewed the sewer issue at length, and the only thing I can tell you is that I think it's a lot better off than it was a year ago.
So $3 million that you haven't contributed has to be made up by the people that are using the sewer. Is that your answer?
When you say I'm not using the sewers, I think what you mean is the town. The town. All right, the town. You're right. That's a very good issue that has to be addressed. The town. I think that issue is going to be addressed in the near future.
The council's looking into that in the future. All right? It's not necessarily a town solicitor to do that, but thanks for your comments tonight. I think we all kind of knew about the sewer. We've been on sewer subcommittees, and it's always been underfunded, not charged enough to people. So,
okay, last question.
No, I think you've had 3 last ones, but go ahead.
But why does everybody else have to, why do other people on the sewer line, the people you're going to put on this evening, the people you're going to put on the next session, why do they have to make up that difference? Why?
It's the cost of doing the sewer business in the town.
You haven't paid your share, not you.
I don't have sewers either, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah. It's being looked into and studied, and we're going to have the sewer assessment study coming up. We just passed that to look into it and see how we can rectify the problem. I'm not going to solve it tonight, but thanks again.
Thank you for your
appreciate it. Anybody else for a comment? All right.
Hi.
Hello, just name and address for the record.
Bruce Weiner, 1606 Village Green. I just want to just add a little to that. I'm here 90 days. I lived in Cranston for 65 years. I'm pushing 66. My wife is 70. I cannot believe the tax rate that we have here. You keep saying that we're private, but I don't want to believe that because I know you don't want to believe that either, but it's unbelievable. My taxes just went up to $4,500. I was paying $3,800 in Cranston for a house, you know, 1,600 square foot house. For 42 years I had that home. $500 exemption because I'm 62 and over, which helped out tremendously, $125 a quarter, which helped out tremendously. Now I just got my tax rate the other day. It was $4,500. I got my sewer bill. I'm waiting for my fire department. I mean, I came here because I'm retired. My wife is retired. I mean, we love it at Village Green. Everybody's great down there. But now the more I'm finding out over here about, you won't remove our snow, you won't pick up our trash, because all we hear is the word private. Well, it's not private. You know what I mean? Because we're paying $400,000 in taxes, and we get no amenities. None of us have children there. We go across the street on the other side. I just saw a school bus. I didn't know that there's maybe 100 kids over there. I understand. There's kids. They go to the school department. We're paying for all that too, and I understand we want to pay our fair share. But why can't we have some sort of tax exemption or something? Something. 5%, 10% to help the seniors. We got 90-year-old people that live in this community.
Right now, seniors do have a tax break.
No, we don't. We have to be here, wait a minute. You have to be here 5 years.
All right, well.
That's
you have to
crazy.
be 5 years.
That's
All right.
absolutely,
And
I believe that's insane, because 5
Okay.
years,
Thank
then
you.
you're gonna freeze it. So when it goes for $6,000 or $7,000 in 5 years, then you're
Right.
gonna say, oh, you're frozen because you're 75 years old. Who cares? We're gonna be dead.
Well,
You know, I'm already dead. But,
I
you know what I mean?
understand what you're saying, and others want to look into the
A tax
sewer
exemption would
break.
be unbelievable, like
Yeah.
even $300 or $400 a year for the
All right.
seniors that live in Village Green. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Janice Hine, Village Green Circle.
Talking to the mic,
Janice
please. yeah.
Hine, Village Green Circle
Yep.
as well. And the uniqueness of our community here should like warrant something as far as like that he said a tax break of something. We're not looking to not pay our taxes. And the other thing I wanted to ask, is there any state exemption that we can apply for that you're aware of? We are a unique senior.
Right, not that I'm aware of.
And the other thing is the town is not very helpful when we have senior citizens here in notifying them of the exemption that they can get. They can have their taxes
Well,
frozen out of.
ma'am, we have a Department of Human Services right down the street.
I'm just saying, they don't
Yeah.
tell people.
Well,
So if
maybe
if you don't hear
you
it word
could
by
ask,
mouth,
because maybe they
well,
don't know
people
you.
don't know,
Yeah.
though, that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
especially, you
All right,
know,
well, that's-
you know, so.
Yeah, you can call the tax
It would be-
assessor's
It
office.
would be helpful.
Right, and you
when
can.
call your town.
We have a new
someone to
tax
say
assessor,
that.
and you can certainly call and ask.
That would be great.
Okay.
So if you consider this.
Or stop in, right.
Are you gonna consider the, some exemption for us?
I'm personally not, no.
Of the town?
I don't believe so, but I can't speak for everyone. We can certainly discuss it, because, I mean, it would open up
Is there a
Pandora's
vote?
box, it'd be other
Is there a
areas.
vote or something? 'Cause Richard's
No,
been
there's
spending a lot of
no
time
vote,
here.
not
There's
tonight.
no vote?
Well, not tonight, tonight's public comment, and we've heard your comments.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else before we adjourn tonight? Anyone else at all, public comment? Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't see. That, Mr. Bacon want to talk?
I'm Shirley Sampan.
Yes.
I live at 1103 Village Green. If it's a private road, can we get out there and block it off? Huh?
Your development area?
Yes.
I
Well, it's a private
assume you
road,
could proceed with caution
we can
if you wanted
block
to.
it off,
Others
right?
probably you might want to drive by though, that live in your area. It's all those people that own those dwellings. All right, next, Mr. Bacon, go right ahead.
Hi, Richard Bacon, 16 Catalpa Way.
Yes.
So, sitting at home today and just wanted to check and see how long the meeting was running. So I turn it on, and I'm watching Councilwoman Carlson go back and forth with the head of the school department, and I see a lot of eyes rolling and huffing and puffing, like, she's, and Mrs. Bacon, the same thing, right? Like, oh my God, they just keep asking questions, they keep digging into this, it's so simple. Let me, I think, well, Mr. McGee later on said, let me say it a little slower for people, right? So there's a lot of huffing and puffing and eyes rolling and wonder why there's a lot of questions, right? We finally moved past that, right? And then what's the next thing? We have $250 grand that we're spending on a dam that the town's legal counsel never reviewed, right? And we wonder why people get aggravated, right? And we wonder why the councilwomen ask all kinds of questions, ask for documentation. Brady Sullivan gets an $850,000 break, right? Another $250 grand. We don't even know if we own the dam, right? Because the town's legal counsel never looked at it. And you wonder why people are trying to look at every little thing the town does, and people will roll their eyes. It's because it happens over and over again, right? I'm at home. I happen to turn on. I see another $250 grand where stuff slips by because people
Excuse
aren't
me,
told
it's
us what they're doing.
150 grand to be accurate, but that's all right.
Well, first of
you
all,
can continue.
First of all, it was between they gave you not you guys.
No,
they gave
not us.
someone an estimate between $300,000 and $750,000 to complete that project. Who comes up with an estimate like that? That's wide open, and you shoot down the middle, right?
Yeah,
And then when you
Mr.
know what the
Hoover
cost
did,
is-
and I think you heard that.
Right, but I'm saying that, but that's why they are the way they are.
Well-
Because in the past, the town never did this. Stuff just got pushed through. Legal counsel wasn't looking at it, right? Spend money. You wonder why we're at 4% all the time, right? The school department whips the parents into a frenzy before the town meeting there, telling them, oh my God, we need to get more money to get teachers back. Then during the meeting, we find out that because of the lower population of the students, They were laying off teachers anyway, but they whipped those poor parents into a frenzy. They come in and ask for an extra $200,000, so we give it to him, right? And now he's asking for more. It just happens over and over again, and I get aggravated when I see it.
Okay.
And then you guys huff and puff all the time when they're asking questions, asking for documentation. That's why, because things happen like this over and over again. And Mr. Gorham, you were right? You start looking back at some of these things, and you even shake your head, right? This town spent millions and millions of dollars on mistakes when it shouldn't happen. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Herb Gray, and I also live in the Village Green Condominium Association. Excuse me. My address is 3802. One thing I want to clear up right away is Mr. Gorham's representation that all of the questions related to that development in the private road and all that was answered last year. What happened for the people in that homeowners association, we submitted a lot of questions. And the ones that you guys chose to answer, you answered. And one of the more important questions was put to the side, and Mr. Asselin talked about that the receiver's taken $1 million in fees out of that thing. We asked him that question, and he dodged it and went down the road on a different direction. But that's not your problem. I know that's what you're going to tell me, because we're a private development, we're on a private road, and therefore we're responsible for it. Just remember, we pay $400,000 in taxes to you people here in this town. In addition to that, we pay another, say 600 times 85, another $50,000 to the fire department for the Hopkins Hill Fire District. We all got hit with an impact fee of $7,500 to pay for a sewer that we actually paid for when we bought the property, because that was built into the cost of the home. And now we're paying $7,500 over a 20-year period at an exorbitant 6.8% interest rate, I might add. I don't know where you get the chutzpah to do that, but so add all those facts and figures together, and the only answer we ever get is that you're a private development, it's your problem, pick up your own trash, plow your own roads. We don't have any kids in the school. That argument's made ad nauseum in all 37 towns and cities in the state, so I don't even hang my hat on that one. I'm with Mr. Reynolds. We should get some minimum service from the town, but I know you guys aren't going to change that, because you don't have to. You don't have any dog in the fight. You got your general counsel telling you that it's not your responsibility, it's a private road. The interest that you should have in that is that this court case that he talked about last year went before Judge Silverstein on August 23rd last year. And nothing has happened since then as far as moving that case forward so that we would get some relief from being a private development and have our road be brought up to standards. Not a thing has happened. And I would think you'd have some interest in that, because you have out here 85 people living in condominiums, many of them married with spouses, so you've got at least 150 votes out there. If it comes to that, maybe that's what we need to do. We have to start voting to say, what the heck is going on in this town? That last gentleman made the point, too. All this stuff, every year, the taxes go up. Every year they go up. I don't know how he got 4,500, the guy right here, because mine is 51. And so, each time that happens, that raises our hackles to say, what in the heck are we paying for with this $5,100? Apparently it's nothing. By the way, we don't get any police and fire service either. The only time I've seen a fire truck in that neighborhood is at Christmas time when Santa Claus goes around and waves. And I've never seen a cop. Thank God, maybe because I drive too fast sometimes, but I don't think I've ever seen a policeman in that neighborhood. So we get absolutely no services, as he described, and we pay $400,000 in taxes. You should know that and think about that when you make your decision.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Go ahead. Come on.
You said at the beginning of the meeting that you were going to, one of your items were to discuss the tax freeze for the elderly, or something like that?
That is on the horizon. It's not going to be discussed tonight. Again, it's not for us to vote on.
Is it the freeze that you get for when you live here for 5 years as an elderly citizen? Is that
right?
What it is? And what
people are concerned is too much a tax break for seniors. Maybe I'm not necessarily. I'm not saying that. Maybe levels. There's a lot of issues to be discussed on that. It's whether it's going to be all taken away, all not. If it's going to continue, what percentage is it going to continue, what salary. There's a lot. We just hired a new finance director, so I don't have the answers tonight.
Right, I understand, but I just want to know what people are bringing that to your agenda.
Well, it's being discussed. It has.
By who? Who brought
several-
it to your agenda?
Well, we had, what was the Charter Review Commission, as Mrs. Carlson, is-
You people brought it to your own agenda?
Citizens Advisory, a year or two ago. And again, it hasn't picked up because it's a lot of,
Citizens Advisory?
committee. Yeah,
What-
and it has a
okay.
lot of different, octopus legs on
Are
that.
there senior
and there's
citizens
no
on this
easy
committee?
answer.
It is a
Yes.
public committee, right? There's
Right.
senior citizens on this committee who feel
Yes.
that they are getting too much of a tax break.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Here comes.
one more, go ahead, yeah,
Here comes an easy solution.
all right, we're not. So go ahead, Mr. Reynolds.
We pay what we're doing now, but at the end of the year, we submit to the town how much money it cost us to remove the trash and to plow the roads. You reimburse us if that's what you want. The simple way would be for you to come in and do the job properly because we're paying our taxes for it. Why are we paying taxes? We're giving you a free ride, and you're
Thank
taking
you.
advantage of it. You
Okay.
come up with all this hooey about, oh, it's private this and private that. That's a lot of baloney. That road is loaded with cars. You stand out in the middle of the road and you see what happens. They'll
people-
run you over.
They go to Walmart, they
And
go
we
to Home
never ask for
Depot, they go to
anything.
BJ's.
Never ask for anything.
Not just the neighborhood.
Maybe twice a
All
year,
right.
I can see a cruiser, police going through the
If
village.
you called,
Maybe.
they'd probably come, if you
That's it.
called. If somebody
Simple as
needed
that.
police or fire, they'd come. Thanks for your comments tonight.
Very unfair.
Appreciate it.
I can tell you that.
Comments will be probably
If you
similar
could tell
next
us-
meeting. All right.
What do you got to say, folks?
Anyone else?
Thank you for the night.
Thank you. Motion to, all right, did you want to say something, sir?
Yeah, my name is Charles O'Rourke, and I live at 3501 Village Green Circle.
Yes.
And first of all, I think you live in, well, maybe you're calling us a private road, but I'm sure you live in private property. All of you live in private property, but you're getting all your town services for the taxes you're paying. And second of all, you keep talking about Mr. Cambia, but you know what? We're the owners now. We own our property. We are paying the taxes. Therefore, you should be dealing with us. And third, I think that it's against state law to be doing what you're doing. You should be treating all taxpayers fairly throughout the whole town.
Thank you.
So,
All right, motion to adjourn, do I have? Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Good evening.